He's managed to get himself on the inside, but he's caught up on the curve. Sean Allen, the outside special. We've had a huge crash. This can't be real. I think he might have the job done finally. Ethan Warren gives him no space. He's in the wall. He's in the wall. Turn point. He's taken out Bruce Dean as well. Oh, big moment there. Kurt Stenberg on his roof. Big crash at turn 4. That is an unfortunate huge crash. It's a huge wiggle on while he was clear. Final corner, that's the death! Good evening everyone, and welcome to the 9th round of the Automobilista Supercars Championship. We're here at Darwin for the second week running for a SuperSprint format. My name's Stairs, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome Matt Dunlop to the commentary box. Good evening, Matt.
Good evening, Stairs, and good evening to everyone watching along wherever you may be. Welcome to the Automobilista Supercars Championship, round number 9, I believe it is. And it is the second time we have visited the Hidden Valley Circuit, mirroring the real-life V8 Supercars calendar, of course. And it is the Hidden Valley Circuit that we're at, and we're watching the cars going around for practice right now.
So it might have been the same track, but we've got a different format with a SuperSprint format, and we're going to be doing a top 10 shootout. And we also thought we'd change it up a little bit by getting rid of the normal commentary duo with Madbird taking leave this week and Matt Dunlop taking his place for this. This isn't actually the reason, he's on holiday. But Matt Dunlop, Apex Rear Wing commentator, you will have probably heard him in that particular series. And, well, the last Apex Rear Wing Championship you and Madbird commentated on was an absolute corker.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And now I'm back in the box with you, Stairs. Obviously, I was in the box with you the season prior to when I was working with Madbird, and now I've been thrown into Automobilista Supercars pretty much in the deep end. I don't really know a huge amount about the championship, the drivers in it, so you can expect to hear me fumbling around with my words, trying to figure out who I'm talking about. But nah, it's going to be great fun. From what I saw last week, the racing is really, really great as well, and very high caliber of driver talent in this category too.
Absolutely. Well, get the pencils out, Matty, because here is the point standings as it stands right now. Dane Warren has been absolutely dominant this championship, and those numbers do not do justice to just how dominant he's been, because he missed the last 3 rounds, and Sean Allen took 2 out of a possible 3 wins last week to close that gap to well, under a race win, let's just put it that way. Sean Allen picked up a 35-point penalty earlier in the year, and if it wasn't for that, he would be currently leading the championship. Defending champion Kurt Stenberg in third, a couple of 100 points back, and there is the top 20. A couple of those drivers joining us tonight. Luke Rosella is back, and we look forward to seeing the Tamiya car. And my apologies once again to Ethan Warren for misspelling his name. I haven't fixed that from last round, so that's a little oversight on my part. We'll turn our attention now to the team's points classification, and leading the team's points classification is Race on Oz, with Brody Steen and Sean Allen holding a commanding lead over ZB Racing in second place. Trans-Tasman Racing is, well, it's a sole car effort at the moment, because Jake Maloney, we haven't seen him for quite some time, so Kurt Stenberg flying the flag for Trans-Tasman. Logitech, GLTIS Esports, Stealth Penrite Racing, both of those teams now effectively defunct, with their drivers moving on to effectively other teams. And so expect some of those guys lower down on that list to come up a little bit further and in the rounds to come. Speaking of the rounds to come, here is the revised schedule for the end of the 2020 championship. It is, of course, loosely based on the real-life Supercars Championship, which is a movable feast itself, but rest assured, Darwin SuperSprint is going to happen, and we're off to 2 back-to-back weeks at Townsville after this week. Then, of course, well, we don't know if we'll be able to get to Sandown in September. We certainly hope so, but it's not looking fantastic at the moment. The date for Bathurst to be decided, and of course Perth, Tasmania and Sydney Super Night are the ones penciled in after that. All right, let's jump into the practice session. Matty, and who have we got leading the timesheets?
Well, it's Dane Warren leading at the moment, our championship leader, our narrow championship leader, as we were talking about just before. His fastest time so far is a 1:04.119, and for Hidden Valley, that is super quick. They're probably going to be dialing up the setups to more of a qualifying trim for the practice sessions to get some last-minute qualifying practice in before they run out for that session. But the lap record around this place is set by Ethan Warren. Last time they visited here last year. And that's a 1:04.535. Obviously, that's a race lap record. So they're getting pretty close to that sort of pace. It's good to see that quick pace there. And the margin from Dane to Ethan, who is second in the practice standings at the moment, is just under 0.3 of a second. And at the moment, the top 6 drivers in this practice session are separated by a second. So pretty close in the pointy end in this practice session alone. It's going to make for an interesting qualifying. That's an interesting pit exit from Dane Warren.
I was about to say that Dane Warren came out of the pits and nearly got collected by Zach Baker, I think that is, in the 512 car. So, and they both come out right in front of Luke Rosella coming down the main straight. But just on the point about Ethan Warren there, his time, I believe, that he's already set in this practice session is faster than the lap record that he holds. But
it is.
Of course, his brother Dane has once again moved the benchmarks, which he's been doing all year long.
How flexible are the setups in terms of different sessions? Do they try to keep it relatively similar for qualifying, practice and race trim, or can they vary the speed of the car quite a bit?
As far as I'm aware, there are no parc fermé rules in this championship, but whether or not they take advantage of that and change the setup from one session to the next, I'm not sure. Dane Warren, whatever setup he's running, is absolutely mega, and I know he has shared setups with other drivers. Thomas McMillan, for example, I remember way back just before the New Zealand round earlier in the year, Dane Warren was sharing his setup with Thomas McMillan, and then Thomas McMillan ended up taking a race win, one of only 2 that he's had this year.
Well, there's definitely a bit in that setup then, so that'll be something to keep an eye out for. And another thing to keep an eye out for, as I'm just watching Dane Warren at the moment, is how close those guys get to that pit wall as they're coming off turn 14 onto the main straight. I'm not sure if we had any mayhem with that last time, Matt, or last year, but that seems like a recipe for disaster sometimes, doesn't it, Stairs?
Yeah, and it was something we noticed them doing last week as well. So I wonder whether there's some sort of aerodynamic benefit to doing that. It seems to be the opposite. Those of you who are IndyCar fans might know that there is a bit of a phenomenon when you drive close to the wall, it actually causes a bit of drag, and so they drive out from the wall in order to reduce drag, but it seems to be the opposite is effective in these cars around this track.
Maybe it's just a case of being ultra refined with their driving inputs and being as close to that racing line all the way down the main straight as possible, but it's really hard to say, isn't it? Whatever works for them, I guess.
We've definitely seen some, what's the term, silly buggers with people jinking into the pit lane and trying to force someone else into a pit stop that they didn't necessarily want to take.
Speaking of silly buggers in the pit lane, Ethan Warren's car was just sitting at the entrance there in a heap because he went through pit entry at full speed and just slammed into the chicane.
Oh, let's have a look at that on the replay if we can. His car's actually still damaged as he's coming out. Oh, it's been fixed now. There was a delay in them getting it fixed. Let's see if we can pick up a replay of what happened to Ethan Warren there. In fact, it had already happened on the start of that replay, so we're just going to wind that back. So, goes into the pit lane, and yeah, I don't know whether he was attempting to see how quickly he could get in there, or he was just having a bit of fun. I think most likely the latter.
Yeah, there's no real benefit into getting into that chicane any faster than is already possible, because the pit lane line is just after the end of it. So if you're going through there any quicker than physics normally allows, and as I'm looking at Zach Baker coming in, it's actually the pit lane line is before the start of the chicane, so there's no real benefit to it at all. I imagine just having a bit of fun.
Exactly. Zach Baker practicing his pit entry as well. Now it's a good time to talk about the pit strategy. Last week we had a very interesting strategy with the drivers forced to take hard tyres for one of the 3 races. Tonight we're doing 2 races, but over the same exact race distance that we had last year, in terms of racing, last week I should say, in terms of racing kilometres. It is a 119 lap race followed by a 38 lap race. And well, the drivers haven't been told that they have to pit, so if they can make it to the end without stopping, that's completely up to them. But based on what we've seen earlier in the year, I'd say that's probably not likely. They will probably have to pit, because we know when these tyres go, they go big, and it's like driving on ice.
Well, if there's no compulsory pit window, maybe that opens up the opportunity for very early or perhaps very late pit stops, in case they try to get to the end of the race on one set of tyres, realise it's not going to work for them, make a quick splash and dash for a new set of boots. But a little bit of flexibility in the pit strategy is always good to see, and it's always interesting to note what strategy the drivers take in relative to each other. And it creates for some very interesting battling up and down the field when they're trying to cut their way back through traffic, doesn't it? And find some clear air for themselves.
Yes, and I like it. It's variation. We didn't want exactly the same set of circumstances that we had last week, and they've changed it enough to make sure that we really don't know what's going to happen. One thing's for sure, though, I think we can expect to see Dane and Ethan Warren fighting near the top. Dane Warren had won 13 out of a possible 16 victories prior to his absence last week. So that's quite an incredible statistic. Of the 6 races this year that he hasn't won, 3 of them were because he wasn't here.
Yep, that's a pretty good record, if I do say so myself. And the drivers who've been picking up the flack for the rest of it include, who have we got? Ethan Warren's a race winner. Sean Allen's won a couple. He's won 3, actually, as a matter of fact. And Thomas McMillan has won the other 2. So a few of those other drivers, Thomas McMillan and Ethan Warren, are pretty far down the standings. Ethan Warren only making a select few appearances this season, but obviously we know he's quick from that, so he could be a real threat tonight in these races. And Sean Allen as well, who is currently... Is he in the session? I'm not actually 100% sure if Sean Allen is here.
No, he doesn't appear to be. I can't see him in the server, so I hope he's not giving himself a bit of a handicap by sitting out these races with Dane Warren sitting out last week to make it an even playing field, because it'll certainly put him under pressure from Kurt Stenberg. If Kurt does well tonight, he's going to claw back some points on Sean.
Yeah, that's exactly right. 100 points for a race win, I believe it is at the moment. It could be 150. I'm not sure.
We'll be doing 150 this week, I believe, because it's 300 for a round. We've been doing 100 points for the win when we have 3 races for the night. But there's just 2 tonight, and so we'll be going back to the normal points format that we have for a SuperSprint round.
Well, in that case, Kurt Stenberg could very easily leapfrog Sean Allen if he wins a couple of races, and even if he finishes second in both, that will give him 138 points apiece, which would bring him up to around about 270 or so, and that would leapfrog Sean Allen. So Kurt Stenberg is currently sitting 4th in the practice standings, 0.475 behind Dane Warren at the moment. But depending on the good start he gets and whether he can keep traffic behind him and whether he can press on and do well in this race, he could be in with a chance to move up the championship standings.
Unlucky not to get a win last round was Kurt Stenberg. He was very, very close to grabbing one, but he had a little bit of contact on the last lap with Thomas McMillan and ended up redressing that position, but there was a fast finishing David Nenadich behind, and it was all over the back of Thomas McMillan, who was recovering from the spin that Kurt Stenberg was giving him back the position for. And in the end, the 3 of them crossed the line with just 1/10.5 of a second between them, and Kurt Stenberg managing somehow to split himself in between those 2 cars, just 7 thousandths off the victory. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I think I would have been pretty perplexed if I was in David Nenadich's shoes, because he would have been sitting there going, "Oh, easy car here. Maybe there's a battle up ahead. That's probably a bit farther away. Why is he slowing down all of a sudden? Why are there suddenly 2 cars next to me on the main straight? The finish line's just ahead." That was something else. I was watching that wondering what on earth was going on. So redressing seems to be a point of contention almost. It seems to be a yet unexplored science in Automobilista Supercars Championship. So what not? Because I'm guessing penalty points are normally levied out after post-race investigations. Is there an onus usually on drivers to redress positions if errors are made, and they can sort of make up for it with redressing, or are they just encouraged to race on as they were and then it gets leveled out afterward?
Well, I'd say that they are encouraged to redress, given that series admin and defending champion Kurt Stenberg has led by example last week by redressing the position. So if you were to use that as your barometer for that, I'd probably use that. Oh, someone's had a huge crash down there at turn 5. I didn't quite see who that was. It was in the foreground of the shot. We'll try and pick up vision of who's gone off. I believe it is Stenny, father of Kurt Stenberg, Peter Stenberg. And we'll just catch a replay of what happened. So, he got it all crossed up coming out of turn 4. Just got on the curb and lost an engine, lost a wheel. That was a big crash.
Yeah, that's absolutely massive, and that's put him all the way into that fence that separates the track between turns 5 and 7. So they carry a lot of speed through that complex there on the way onto turn 5. So you've got to make sure you get your line just right. Don't dip any wheels, and it unsettles the car a little bit as you go over the crest out of turn 4 into turn 5, because you're also flipping and flopping from that left-hander into the long right-hand corner. So balance of the car and getting the suspension set up right so you can get it stabilized under braking there is super important, as Stenny has just shown us with that example of what happens when it goes wrong.
So easy to push it just a little bit too far there. Now, where do you stand on this standpoint of what counts as a corner or not? Because Madbird and I had this discussion last week, and he doesn't reckon most of the corner names. I can maybe get on board with him about 10 through 14, because some of those couldn't, not necessarily corners in their own right, but 2, 3, and 4 have a distinct sort of, well, at least 4 and 2 does. 2 and 3 maybe, based on the map that I'm looking at, could be considered one corner.
My original opinion last week when I was watching is that if you can get through it at full throttle with your rear wing missing, it is not a corner. But now I've had a bit of a think about it because I watched again today, and I'm not 100% sure. Shall we go on board with the driver and run through the circuit and see if I can give you a live reading of what's a corner and what isn't? Let me know who you're on board with, and I'll jump on with them.
Well, we would, but we've just gone to the end of the practice session, and so we'll be jumping into qualifying shortly. So
we certainly have been. We'll go around a hot lap and we'll judge it then.
We'll have a look at the first hot lap in qualifying. But here are the details of this Hidden Valley Raceway circuit: 2.87 kilometers in length, and the qualifying lap record set by Ethan Warren last year still stands. But I have a feeling that it will be broken tonight. In fact, it is just... I'm just looking at the clock. I'm wondering if this is still a practice session we're going into, because it seems a little bit early for them to be running into a qualifying, because the schedule says that qualifying doesn't start until 8:05, and we're still 15 minutes short of that. So anyway, we've shown you those details ahead of time, and we'll just wait to see what the drivers do next.
Just looking at a bit of conversation between the drivers in the server chat. Kurt Stenberg clarified that both races do require one compulsory pit stop, and there'll be 5 sets of tyres per driver to use. And Luke Rosella was very thankful for that, saying the tyres were busting up, so that could be very ominous. So the pit stops, not only will they be essential for the drivers, but they will also be compulsory. Stenberg also saying that both tyre compounds are allowed to be used at any stage, and they do not have to use any particular compound, so they can run a whole race on softs if they so desire.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I think that race 2 is going to be a 2-stop, because I don't think they can do 19 laps without stopping for a new set of tyres. So I would not be surprised to see them stop twice in the second race, which is longer in length. So it looks like we've just gone into another 10-minute practice session to finish off the last of the practice before we get into qualifying for race 1.
So just a last-minute bit of warm-up for the drivers before they can get out on the track and put down the fastest qualifying lap they possibly can. No bonus points for pole position or for qualifying spots or anything like that, but it's ever important to do well in qualifying because you get to start up higher on the grid as well. But it means you have to worry less about traffic off the start, because those first few laps can be really, really chaotic. And if you don't have clear air in front of you when you're trying to make a break for it, if you've got pace, that's definitely one thing, but if you've got traffic sitting in front of you, it all goes to waste, doesn't it, Stairs?
It does. Let's go on board, shall we, with Zach Baker to take you around a lap of this Hidden Valley Raceway circuit. Zach Baker hard on the anchors into one and ran it deep. Is he going for a late apex? We've seen multiple lines work around this track, getting the power down through this section of turns 2, 3 and 4, and where we saw Stenny lose it a little bit earlier on the curb, down into turn 5, overtaking opportunity. Lots of people going side by side through there last week. The hairpin at 6. It's a very, very sharp corner. And then coming back the way you came towards turn 7. And this is where, as Madbird says it, the corner names start to get a little bit lost. We've got turn 7, 8, 9, down into 10, as our screen just freezes up momentarily, 11, 12, and down to the last couple of corners, 13 and 14. Very, very important corner this to get a good run onto this incredibly long main straight and complete a lap of Hidden Valley.
Yeah, I'm just evaluating my opinions of the corners at the moment. There's definitely some that I wouldn't have said were corners first time around, but now I've changed my mind. Are we still on board with Zach? I'd like to reevaluate these if possible.
Yeah, we've gone to an off-board shot of Zach Baker going around this track at the moment.
Alrighty. Turn 1, definitely a corner. I think there's no debate with that one at all.
Yep, yeah, I can
Turn
agree.
2 and 3, I'm in Camp Madburn saying that 2 and 3 are the exact same corner and should be levied as such. Turn 4 is its own corner.
Yep.
And turn 5, 6 and 7, these three here. Oh, runs a little bit wide there. And we've seen a little bit of action in the supercars here, the main game on Saturday and Sunday just gone. You can have drivers running around the outside here trying to defend, and they're able to hold that line down this mini straight into turn 7 and successfully defend their position. Hopefully we get to see more excitement like that. Turn 7, definitely a corner. Turn 8, yes, I think that's a corner. Turn 9, nah, it doesn't have to be a corner. 10 and 11 is a double apex. It's a little bit of a tricky one, but I'd say it is one corner. Turn 12, that right-hand kink, I think is its own corner, and these last two here, 13 and 14, can surely be rolled into one, if you ask me. So just a few off the chopping board. I'd probably get rid of 2, 9, 10, 13, and that makes me happy, and that's all that matters, apparently.
Yep, no, I would tend to agree with you for the most part there. The tricky thing with your metric of if you can go through the corner flat out with your rear wing is that these cars, although they are aero, much more aero focused than previous generations of supercars, they're not really aero cars in the same way that a Formula car is. And so I think your metric there probably applies more to F1 cars than supercars.
I think you might be right. Yeah, the Formula cars are definitely built around aero. It's sort of like a sort of separate dimension of the chassis, in that if the aero's not working, the whole car's not working. Whereas these things, I'd say the rear spoiler is mostly there. There's probably a little bit of downforce, probably quite a bit of downforce actually, but there'll still be a lot of weight over those tires. So downforce isn't super crucial, mostly for stability through corners is what that rear wing would be for, because if you look at the massive end plates on the Mustangs especially, that will serve a role of high-speed cornering stability and straight-line stability more than anything else, I would say.
We'll see if we can get a close-up shot of those end plates on the Mustang, because you're right, they are absolutely massive.
You could definitely eat a three-course meal off them, I'll say that much.
Yeah, without having to finish one of the courses before moving on to the next one.
No, that's exactly right.
I think we'll be able to pick up one of our patented slow-motion zooms. And here it is of one of the wildcard cars of the Mustang. And, what am I doing? That's not a Mustang. That's a ZB Commodore. Alistair,
well, that's a good comparison, isn't it? It's just how big the difference is in size between the ZB and the Mustang.
Yeah, let's see if we can find a Mustang, as I've just embarrassed myself on the on the broadcast. But where is another Mustang? I'm just looking for it on the other screen. While we fill for time, we'll go for a little bit of a wander through the pit lane, and we'll bring you shots. Looking at Colin Warwick out on the racetrack at the moment.
So Colin Warwick currently sitting third in this session alone. In the championship standings, he's currently sitting P6 with 2 podiums to his name. So 2 third places, one of them being at Sydney, the first race at Sydney earlier in the season. And last time out in Darwin last week, he podiumed in the 3rd race. So he's got recent pace here. He definitely knows how to steer a car around Darwin. And I'd say he's a force to be reckoned with tonight.
We've wandered into the Warren Brothers garage, and now we can actually see the difference between the ZB and the Mustang. Ethan Warren driving the Mustang there, and there is the end plate on the back of Ethan Warren's Mustang. And then if we look at the ZB Commodore, it is very obviously much smaller, and I believe they made them smaller since they first rolled out the Mustang for supercars. They did actually get trimmed down a little bit before they ended up starting the season. In fact, I think there was a mid-season adjustment to that car as well.
There was indeed. There was a lot of parity adjustment, as they like to call it, for the Mustang especially. There's a little bit for the ZB Commodore too. I think now they've got it to a stage in the supercars where it's relatively even slather in terms of aero performance, but they are, even for supercar standards, quite differently aerodynamically shaped, with the ZB Commodore, of course, being a four-door saloon car and the Mustang being a two-door sports car of different scales and dimensions. So you have to warp the size of the Mustang quite dramatically to get it to fit on that four-door chassis. And they've done a pretty good job of making it aerodynamically work in a very similar way to the ZB Commodore. And the beauty for us is it provides us some very exciting racing no matter which side of the stable you're on.
I definitely don't envy the job of the people whose job it was to introduce this car and try and make it somewhat on a level playing field with the existing ZB Commodore, because that would have been incredibly difficult. Just looking at the live chat, Matty, and we've got a few fans of yours actually watching along. Two Awful Guys says, I think I know who that guy is. He says, that guy doesn't sound like Madbird. Heath says, agreed, he sounds much more manly. And Rodney Andrews says, sack Madbird, welcome Matty.
Oh, thank you for the kind words, everybody. I've got raving reviews already, and we haven't even started race one yet, so I'm going to chalk that off as a win in my book, and I pop that down on the resume. And hopefully, by the time COVID and lockdown is finished, I may have a job in the media industry as a result of that. So keep the praise coming. I'll just throw it all on my resume.
We're all behind you, Matty. And to give you another plug, if you're interested in some art for your wall, check out Matt Dunlop and Redbubble. If you go into Redbubble and look up Matt Dunlop, you'll see some art created by your good self, Matty. And my favourite of which being a wall size, well, it can be whatever size you want. You can have it on a mug or a t-shirt if you wanted, but a piece of art including every significant racetrack in the world. Now that's a loaded statement because it implies that anything you missed out isn't a significant racetrack. But
that is a loaded statement.
The point being, all to scale, all within the Snaefell mountain course, I believe, which is the Isle of Man TT circuit.
That's right, yeah. And it's a very contentious issue of how significant those tracks are, because that hasn't been updated for a few years. I made that in 2014 originally, and I think it got its last update where I changed some of the tracks around 4 years ago or so. So there's definitely a few brand new tracks like in Formula 1 and MotoGP and things like that. And even supercars. I know Newcastle's not on there, Hidden Valley's not on there.
Takes a while for a circuit to be considered a classic, though. I don't know. Newcastle is very good in supercars circles, but I don't know if it has that worldwide acclaim just yet. Yeah,
there's tracks on there that are present for certain reasons. Some obviously because they're esteemed in the history of world motorsport. Monza, Monaco, Indianapolis, Le Mans, all those sort of places, the Nürburgring. But then I put Symmons Plains on there because my friend who's from Tasmania said that he'd disown me if I didn't. So that's on there, down there next to Phillip Island. And fun fact, you can fit the entirety of the Symmons Plains racetrack inside the infield of Phillip Island. So there you go.
One of the favourite things about that I noticed is that all the three tracks that make up the Triple Crown, Monaco, the Circuit de la Sarthe, and Indianapolis, they all fit inside one another. Monaco fits inside Indianapolis, and Indianapolis fits inside Circuit de la Sarthe.
I guess as a testament of the prestige of the Triple Crown is just how wildly different all three of those tracks and their respective races are to each other.
Very much so, and you can see why anyone who wins all three of those races is considered amongst the greats, because of how different your driving style must be to win all of those.
Yeah, shame for Fernando Alonso that he couldn't convert it on Monday. Of course, the 2020 running of the Indianapolis 500 was just yesterday. Yesterday morning it would have been, and he said he had a clutch issue in the later stages of the races, which put him down into the mid-20s or so in the field. So shame for Fernando Alonso, but if he happens to be listening along, congratulations again to Takuma Sato for winning his second Indianapolis 500 with a great performance there.
Speaking of clutch issues, Luke Rosella a few races ago didn't have a working clutch and had some difficulty getting off the line, and has written in the live chat he's using his Fanatec joystick switch as his clutch tonight, so he's asked us to wish him luck. So we are, of course, impartial as commentators, but we do still wish you good luck, Luke. We hope that works for you.
We are certainly impartial, but those who know my commentary from Apex Rear Wing will know that I'm certainly not impartial to a good paint job. And Luke Rosella has one of the best out there on the grid today, I reckon. That Tamiya Mustang looks absolutely phenomenal.
Just going through the details of the racetrack once again, where the timer has just ticked 10 minutes to go, and there is an absolute stampede of cars coming out of the pit lane.
Yep, qualifying time is upon us, and it looks like who do we have up in the first? Ben Dahlia is leading the queue out at the moment, and he has... Who is that behind him? Sorry, I've just got no concept of names of drivers at the moment, and they're just trying to sort of find out where they can get some clean air on the track for their first initial qualifying run. So not too crucial at this point in the session, but obviously it's good to get a banker lap in case your later fast laps don't work out as well as they intended to be.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of shuffling going on as cars cede position to others, and some people are slowly warming up their tyres, others are going at more or less racing speeds straight out of the back. And just looking at the live timing screen, absolutely no one left in the pit lane. So all 19 cars, including Sean Allen, who has made it in to the server now, on the racetrack at the moment.
Thomas McMillan crosses the line, and he will be the first driver to start a flying lap, and will be able to use his time as a benchmark for the remainder of the session in that green VB machine at the front there as they jump onto the brakes into turn one.
Likes a good long neck, does Thomas McMillan, at 20-8 and in the proverbial morning.
Don't we all?
Don't we all? So he was absolutely mega here last week, and had some fans. Heath Dixon was talking about Thomas McMillan. He even gave him a nickname, which yes, Mac Mittens, there we go, Two Awful Guys has reminded me of what it was, because I was just bringing up the nickname, which I had forgotten already.
Mac Mittens, thank you very much, Madbird, for the clutch performance there, keeping us up to date as commentators. And he's getting pretty close to the second sector split. It's 44.599 as he gets up on two wheels just a little bit through turn number 10.
Whoops.
So these curbs look pretty aggressive. I'm not sure how much two-wheel action we get here in the Supercars Championship. I know in Apex Rear Wing, when we were running the very light Super Touring cars in the season just gone, we were seeing a lot of cars tip over at certain tracks when they mounted the curves. Across the line, 1 minute 5.188 is a benchmark time. Ben Dahlia cannot top it, neither can Warwick. Rosella. Dane Warren is the first driver to pop that by a whole second, and the time to beat is a 104.198 as they stand at the moment. So we're getting some very rapid times coming in thick and fast, and Ethan Warren can only go
half a second,
even more than half a second over as we see someone's in the fence behind there. We're trying to figure out who that is. Is it Steve Warwick?
Steve Warwick. Oh yeah, it was one of the Warwick brothers. Well, brothers, father and son, I should say. Now, listen for this. Hear that? That's me tearing up last year's record for qualifying, set by Jake Maloney, actually. I think we said it was Ethan Warren before, the qualifying record of a 104.48. Dane Warren now holds that record, as he has managed to do at every race that he's competed in this year.
On his first lap as well. That's before he was able to get considerable temperature into those tyres. So we can see that come down as well. And he's probably got a little bit more fuel in that car than he would like on that first qualifying lap. So that time is surely going to come down even further. He's ducking into the pits now. One and done for Dane Warren for now. Ethan Warren is still out on track trying to improve on his time, and he does not. He does improve on his personal best just a little bit, but he is still a quarter of a second down on Dane. Yeah,
he's halved the gap. So it's Warren brothers 1 and 2, and father of Dane and Ethan Warren, Blair Warren, watching along. G'day, Blair. Good to have you along. He says, "Good evening, guys. Great to see Ethan Warren back in the seat. and it's hard to disagree.
It certainly is hard to disagree. We know how quick he is. We were talking about his results earlier as we see someone dart off the track to get out of Ethan Warren's way. He looks to be on another fast lap, but he misses the apex into turn 6 by just a little bit there.
Let's
so
see.
It's great to see a lot of family involvement in the Automobilistas Supercars Championship.
Yeah, in the community. Well, of course, we've got 2 admin fathers running in tonight's proceedings, with Colin Warwick's father, Steve Warwick, and Kurt Stenberg's father, Peter Stenberg, who's racing under the moniker of Stenny. We're now watching Ethan Warren wiggling his way out of the final corner and diving into the pit lane. Didn't think he was going to be able to do 3 flying laps on those tyres. He did pretty well with the 2 that he did give us, though.
So it looks like everyone's ducking back into the pit lane now after making their initial laps.
Yeah, I think Kurt Stenberg's on a personal best lap, just watching the end of that.
Kurt Stenberg just going to try and cycle through. He's currently P6 at the moment. Can he improve as he tears past the pit lane? He's about to cross the start-finish line. He can improve up to third, 104.776. Great lap from Kurt Stenberg, but he's still got just over half a second to cut out of that time before he can challenge Dane Warren for the lead right now.
Yeah, that was a great effort there from Kurt. David Nenadic coming out of the last corner. What can he do? Currently sat in 9th. In fact, I think he must be on an outlap, either that or he did a track cut, because the time is not going up. So he's just starting a lap as a bunch of cars come out of the pit lane. He flashes the lights to let Sean Allen know, and Sean wasn't about to hold him up. So well done there. Play on.
Play on indeed. It's a bit of a strange pit exit there, where they dump the cars basically straight out onto the racing line with a fraction of the speed that the cars on hot laps will have. So as long as they can make that work. Oh, there's a little bit sideways there on the exit of turn 4, and that's cut into Nedic's time quite a bit there.
Just watching a replay, it looks like Stenny came a cropper on the exit of turn 5, I beg your pardon. He went deep. I think he locked a tyre and then went onto the grass and spun it onto the inside fence, Macaulay Jones style.
And he's thrown that lap away for now, so he's letting a couple of guys behind him get some fast laps in.
So just picking David Nenadic up again, and he doesn't look like he's on a personal best lap this time around. He was down by about 1/10 of a second on his own personal best lap. Let's see if he found anything through that final sector to improve on 10th. And he hasn't.
Nah, he got a bit shaky through turn 3 and 4 there on that crest through that dog leg after the first corner, and that unsettled him a little bit, so I reckon that would have knocked a little bit of time out of his pace there.
Dane Warren's on his out lap, taken to the racetrack once again. So they don't get many sets of tyres. They only get 5 for qualifying and the race. So if they have to use 2 sets in the race, then they probably only want to have 2 or 3 runs in qualifying. Well, having said that, they probably only have time for 2 or 3 runs in qualifying.
Yeah, but you also want to make sure you can get that first lap. That's probably why there was such a rush to get out of pit lane in the first place, is because everyone's trying to get that first lap as perfect as they possibly can on a green set of tyres, because with only 5 sets to use for the night, that severely restricts what you can use for the races, and it means you have to start on the tyres that you qualified on, or at least use them at some point in the proceedings. So keeping the wear down is crucial, and Dane Warren is just about on par with his best time, is 1,000th adrift, if you can use the word adrift when we're dealing with thousandths of a second. But that is metronomical consistency. So
Dane Warren is about to move the bars if he can improve on the second and third sectors, and one would think...
Look at that, 3,000ths of a second down for Dane Warren at the second sector split. This is unbelievable.
He must have been absolutely... I mean, he's just gone out there and traced a circle. I'm coining that phrase now. He's drawn a circle, perfect circle, straight up, and he's not going to...
How many thousandths is he down at the finish line?
He's up. He's found some through the final sector. He must have had a horrible final sector on his first lap, because he's found 0.5 of a second. I'm kidding.
Horrible being relative, of course, because he only found 0.053 of a second on that lap that time around. The man's an absolute robot behind the wheel. I can say that much about him. I'll put that down on my list of notes for Dane Warren. Robotic consistency for that man. And he's up again on his current time. He's up 0.5 at the moment, so he's still got pace in those tyres. And he's not afraid to push them hard.
Well, I just want to see Ethan Warren. He's on a good lap, but he's had traffic. Sean Allen's had to get out of the way, and I reckon that Ethan might have lost a fair bit of time through that final sector. Yes, he doesn't improve. He was on a personal best prior to that moment.
Oh, what a shame.
And Dane is improving. He's up by 7/100ths of a second, or sorry, 7/10ths of a second already. No, I was right.
No, that is 700th. You got it right the first time.
Good one,
So
Alistair.
if you can get that final sector nailed again here, he runs a little bit wide of the white line on the exit of turn 14. Don't know whether that's going to constitute a track cut, but he crosses the line. He does improve by 2/3 of a tenth.
All right, are we thinking that 103 land is possible tonight?
Yes. We
'Cause,
don't have much time left in this qualifying session.
we do have
34
another
seconds
qualifying
left.
session later in the night, though.
We do, and anyone who's not really had a huge amount of experience but does have pace will be able to use the race as an extra bit of practice to get those lap times down, to get used to the consistency, and I reckon we'll easily dive into the 103s. So the lap times are just falling like raindrops this time around. Dane Warren's not as quick this time around, mind you, so this will be his last chance. So Ethan Warren is diving into the pit, so
Yep.
Ethan Warren is not going to try to attempt challenge. So Dane Warren and Ethan Warren are both almost locked into positions first and second at the moment. Colin Warwick is floating off into the grass.
Yeah, Dane Warren is 6/10ths away, so he's not going to improve on this lap. I think that's it.
Don't know whether Kurt Stenberg, he is on a flyer, but he's gone wide at the first corner. I reckon he might be the most realistic chance for a challenge at pole position as it stands.
Colin Warwick has aborted his lap too.
He has, but Kurt Stenberg is almost 7/10ths of a second down. What does he look like through the first sector split? Oh, he's about a tenth and a bit. It's close, but it's not enough for him to actually improve on his current position.
Great job, I must say, by Colin Warwick, qualifying third with such a strong field here. So if he'd done that last week, he would be on pole. Because where's Sean Allen? He's only managed 9th. This is the guy who got pole twice last week and race win. Oh, that's it for Kurt Stenberg. He's sent it well wide and won't be improving on 4th, but still a very good qualifying session for Kurt Stenberg, and that's all of them.
We've got one more car out on the track. No, we don't. That was Dominic, who's just pulled into the pit lane now. So that is qualifying done and dusted. Dane Warren is your pole sitter for race 1 here at Hidden Valley Raceway, lining up next to his brother Ethan on the front row of the grid.
Madbird says, two awful guys. Who is Madbird? I'm sorry if I'm spoiling your alias there, Madbird. And Madbird hops out of the comm box and the field goes up. Coincidence? Commiserations, Madbird, but it's great to see 19 cars tonight for a very strong field.
Yeah, absolutely. Some great racing, massively bolstered field, as you were just saying, and we are getting pretty close to the next session, which will be a very brief warm-up, which means we will go to a quick break, won't we, Madbird? Won't we, Stairs? Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, no, I've done it again.
You can have the break to redeem yourself for that. We'll see you in a few moments' time.
Automobilista Supercars Championship is now all in one place. Visit asc.rocksolidmates.com for all the official ASC content, including season calendars, results and championship points, broadcast information, rules and regulations, lap records and more. You can also get updates on our official ASC Facebook page. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell notification icon to get notified whenever we go live for all championship races.
The Automobilista Supercars Championship is proudly brought to you by RSM, Rock Solid Mates, ARW, Apex Rear Wing, CW, Colin Warwick Designs, and Jinx Shifters.
Welcome back, everyone, to Hidden Valley for the 9th round of the Automobilista Supercars Championship. This is the second of 2 back-to-back weeks at this racetrack, and tonight is looking already like quite a different night to the one that we had last week about exactly 7 days ago. We had 3 races. Thomas McMillan won one of them. Sean Allen won the other 2. But so far it's the Warren affair with Dane and Ethan Warren locking out the front row. And 2 awful guys, Madbird in the chat saying, love Matty's line read of Jinx Shifters. I wonder if he will remember that he voiced that line for us quite a while ago, before pre-COVID times. Pre-COVID times? What am I talking about? We're just talking about your voiceover of the line Jinx Shifters. and Rock Solid Mates.
I was watching that live last week, and yeah, you're right. I'd completely forgotten, and I had it on loud, and I had like my housemates next to me, and I was watching along to it, and I was like, "Hang on, is that me?" And then it all came flooding back to me. So now you get to hear a double dose of my voice tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So strap yourselves in for that.
Oh, we should have lined up your Tim Tam Slam to play for the folks at home. But
Oh yeah.
if you do want to see Maddie and Madbird both doing Tim Tam Slams, you'll have to check out the final round of the Apex Rear Wing BTCC Championship, in which you both, after talking it up for the predominant majority of the season, ended up doing Tim Tam Slams each, and Madbird did sort of a review of its efficacy, and you sort of turned it into a formal occasion.
I did, and thanks to the nature of COVID, it's the nicest I've dressed probably since January. So that was a good excuse to bust the old vest and shirt, get the mothballs off him again.
You were looking sharp in that video, Matty.
Oh, thank you very much. I was definitely feeling sharp until I started trying to drink that boiling hot beverage, and then I certainly wasn't feeling as sharp as I may have looked.
Madbird is always trying to derail these commentaries, whether he's in the commentaries or whether he's in the comments down below. He's trying to create some sort of family feud, I think, and asking Blair Warren which son does he love more. Oh my goodness, I'm not getting involved.
Oh my lord. Well, Blair already said just before that it's an each-way bet for the lead, and now he's having a think about which of his sons he loves more. We'll get back to you on that, but also, if you're watching along, jump in the chat, have a bit of fun with us. It's always good to get some interaction with you guys, talking to us during the broadcast, and we'll report back to you on whether Blair actually does have a son that he loves more. Maybe the results of race 1 will determine that.
Yeah, it'll be like that Simpsons episode. You're competing for your parents' love. It's certainly a good spot to be in as a father, watching a race with both of your sons locking out the front row. Let's have a quick look at the details for race 1 tonight. Of course, it's the Hidden Valley Raceway circuit. We're doing 19 laps again for race 1, a 55-kilometre race, and confirmation from Kurt Stenberg that there is a compulsory pit stop. So ignore what that graphic says. That is not true. So there will be a compulsory pit stop. I don't expect the tyres would last on their own without needing to be replaced for the full 19 laps anyway. But it will be interesting to see when drivers elect to take that pit stop. Previous winners, of course, Thomas McMillan and then Sean Allen twice.
It's a staggered grid that we line up on here at Hidden Valley, with pole position being on the inside of the track, which gives the pole position winner a clear advantage on the run down to turn 1, provided they can get a good start and convert it all the way down there. It is a pretty long run onto turn 1 though, with the track running alongside a drag strip. And we are now just waiting for the last of the cars to line up on the grid. There's only a couple left, and I think they might actually all be ready to go now.
Yeah, just waiting to see the cars begin to move off the grid. And Dane Warren has now started to move, and that means that the warm-up lap is underway, and we'll be getting a race start at you very, very soon indeed. So let's take you through the grid. Dane Warren, of course, leading his brother Ethan Warren for EW Privateer Racing in the Mustang. So Mustang versus Commodore, Ethan versus Dane. Behind them will be Colin Warwick in the Warwick Racing ZB Commodore, with Kurt Stenberg, defending champion, in 4th place. Luke Rosella makes his return, and a strong qualifying session for him in 5th place. The tale of woe for those who were successful last week. Thomas McMillan 6th, although actually 6 isn't that bad, but he was a bit further up the grid last week, of course. Brody Steen in 7th place. He outqualifies his teammate Sean Allen, which is interesting. Zach Baker will be starting out of 8th place, and Sean Allen down in 9th, so definitely looking to see an improvement from him tonight. Benjamin Dahlia is in 10th place. Super 2 Star has been winning races in the lower category, and also Victorian Formula Ford champion of previous years. David Nenadic is in 11th place from Alex Cattle in the satellite race on Oscar. RSM Latino, the Super 2 champion, starts out of 13th, ahead of Dane Licciardo in one of the wildcard cars. There's Steve Warwick He starts out at 15th place ahead of Dominic Ferraris in the Prologue React Esports ZB Commodore, Brap in 17th, Peter Stenberg in 18th, and Lachlan Horan in 19th.
Last minute temperature being added to those rear tyres by way of some decent burnouts being laid on the tarmac here at Hidden Valley. Getting a little bit of temperature in those brakes as well to complement the swerving that's been going on in the warm-up lap, and we're just about all gridded up, ready to go, Stairs.
Yep, waiting for the lights. We haven't got them yet, but now we do. So we're about to go racing once again here in Hidden Valley. And away they go.
Oh, we got a big crash at the back. There was a stalled car there. I think it was RSM Latino, and that's caused a bit of a chain reaction, but there's still action at the front.
Yes, there absolutely is. Leading the way, it is Dane Warren, I should say. If we can try and just move up the grid, we'll see pictures there. Dane Warren clear of Ethan by a car length or two. It was Colin Warwick who stayed in third place, Kurt Stenberg in fourth. Thomas McMillan has got up ahead of Luke Rosella, but Luke Rosella looks to be fighting that one back.
Yeah, he's trying his absolute hardest, but he's been pushed a little bit wide onto the grass there through turn 5. He's side by side with Zach Baker into turn 6, that hairpin. Zach Baker can't hold on there, so Luke Rosella's going to get that P6 position back, and he's now going to be trying his best to chase down Thomas McMillan in 5th.
Yeah, so it's a pretty clean start apart from that enormous crash at the start. And it looks like it was probably Brap involved in that. There's 3 wildcard cars right at the back, Lachlan Horan, Stenny and Brap. And we're assuming those guys... Oh, I thought Thomas McMillan was about to spin there. He got 2 wheels on the grass on the exit. And we've got also one of the Steve Warwick is round at the back. Everyone going through. We've got Thomas McMillan and Luke Rosella going side by side through turn 1. So that's Thomas McMillan losing out as a result of that moment on the exit of the final corner. But then Luke Rosella gets in too deep at 1 and gives the place straight back to him.
Luke Rosella trying his best to hang on around the outside of turn 1, but it's just not a very easy corner to do so at. And now Luke Rosella's finding himself defending like crazy against Sean Allen, who just slipped up into 7th place. Up 2 from where he started, and he's been rear-ended a little bit by Zach Baker. That's unsettled the both of them. And Brody Steen, Sean Allen's teammate, is going to try to take advantage around the outside of turn 7, but he just can't get it done.
Is this an episode of Are You Being Served? Because I think Luke Rosella got served a little bit there. Sean Allen got served a little bit there by Zach Baker as Luke Rosella gets 2 wheels on the grass and puts himself under increasing pressure from Sean Allen.
He certainly does. I almost wondered if he had damage there because his car was very unstable through that back half of the circuit, and it's a penalty, a drive-through penalty for Steve Warwick.
Yeah, it's a shame for Steve Warwick, so it's not gone well for him.
That may be for a pit lane speeding penalty because he's in the pits repairing damage, and he's pulled over to the side now, so he may have even retired back to the garage already.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one, but you could see him in that shot. Actually, I think he was missing his bonnet, so that would be from that contact with the wall at the exit of the final corner at the end of lap 1, I think it was. Now on lap 3, and Luke Rosella's gone wide down into turn 6. He's going to have to take a defensive line from Sean Allen, who's looking to drive around the outside him. And Zach Baker and Brody Steen both looking to get in on the action themselves.
Yeah, Sean Allen having a look around the outside of turn 6 as I was talking about earlier, but he just couldn't get the pace into turn 7 to get past. And Luke Rosella is making that Mustang as wide as he possibly can. It's a great defensive race, but the side effect of that is Thomas McMillan is now over a second and a half up the road from him.
Yeah, he's been given a bit of a break. That's exactly what the doctor ordered for Thomas McMillan. He can set his sights on Colin Warwick as now Ethan Warren sets the fastest lap of the race. And there's a lot of cars going across the racetrack. We saw there we were on board with Zach Baker. He was actually trying to defend from Ethan Warren as Sean Allen goes down the inside of Luke Rosella. And is he going to drive him out to the edge of the road? I think he's got enough traction there to get the whole shot ahead of Luke Rosella, and a great passing maneuver there from Sean Allen. Now, meanwhile, up ahead of them, it's Thomas McMillan seems to have caught up to the leading group.
He certainly has. So Thomas McMillan, Kurt Stenberg and Colin Warwick are all nose to tail in 5th, 4th and 3rd respectively, forming a bit of a train. But there's a bit of a train ahead of them as well, 3 seconds up the road as a matter of fact. Ethan Warren has caught right onto the back of his brother Dane for the lead. So they're not super close at the moment. We'll keep tabs on them later though. But Colin Warwick is trying his best to defend. Oh, Sean Allen's gone wide there.
Oh, no.
He's taken out a roadside sign. He's conceded that place back to Luke Rosella. And Zach Baker's going to fancy a chance down the main straight as well with Brody Steen in tow. Ethan Warren sets the fastest lap once again. He only bested his last lap time by 1,000th of a second. So talk about consistency in the Warren family.
Now, there's a lot of weaving going on along the straight here. Sean Allen's going to be frustrated with himself. He'd done such a good job to get that position on Luke Rosella as they all go rallycross through turn 1. Rear tyre limited, evidently.
Oh, Kurt Stenberg getting a little bit slippery and slidey, trying to get past Colin Warwick there through turn 5. But he's still got plenty of pace. He's almost going to have a look up the inside, but Colin Warwick parks that ZB Commodore firmly in the middle of the road, and no passing maneuver done just yet. And there's almost a little bit of a bump and run there from Thomas McMillan, but the racing's very clean as it sits at the moment. And it's some really great scrapping we're seeing so far. Luke Rosella is actually able to pull a bit of a gap on Sean Allen for P6 at the moment. So Luke Rosella's got whatever issues he had earlier sorted out. Now he's charging away as fast as he can.
Very difficult to know where to look at this stage because Ethan Warren is still within within 1 second of his brother Dane, where he saw a little bit of a lock-up from Dane on the previous lap, which gave Ethan a bit of a chance. But this 3-car battle for the last spot on the podium is an absolute perler. And Kurt Stenberg going down the inside here. We've seen Colin Warwick, and Thomas McMillan is trying to take advantage of this. He's trying to do a Miguel Oliveira sort of situation here with the 2 cars battling ahead and potentially having each other off. Thomas McMillan wants to go right through.
It's one of my favourite strategies in racing. The Bradbury just sitting behind the pack, waiting for something to go wrong and just charging through and pick up the pieces. Look at the move from McMillan on the inside of Warwick. They're going to be side by side in the exit. Warwick's got pace. He's got drive out of the hairpin, and he will have the line, and he takes that place back. There's a little bit of biff and barge between the two, but Colin Warwick holds on to P4, and that gives Kurt Stenberg a handy margin of almost a second ahead of them.
Yeah, that's exactly what Kurt Stenberg wanted them to do, giving them. Well, he gave them no. What am I talking about? You take over. What am I talking about?
We're starting to see our first pit stops for tyres now. David Nenadich has just re-emerged into 14th position with a few of the wildcard cars. Ethan Warren's run wide at turn 1. He's conceded a lot of time to his brother Dane, and Kurt Stenberg is almost going to be in touching distance, but there's still a long way to go between Stenberg in 3rd and Ethan Warren in 2nd. The margin of about 4 seconds to be precise, but that's given Dane Warren a buffer of 2.5 seconds behind him, so no rear view mirror required at the moment for Dane Warren, and that's a very unfortunate mistake from Ethan.
Yeah, disaster there for Ethan Warren. He's conceded a thick end of 3 seconds to Dane Warren now, and to boot, he's got the traffic of the lapped runner there that he has to repass, and not doing him any favours, it seems.
It's a pretty tough track, especially the second half of the circuit here, to get past lap traffic, and he's just gotten by there for him now and given him some clear running space to head down. So Ethan Warren is clear there, trying to make up some of that time, but now the gap's 3.4 seconds. So he's lost almost another whole second after turn 1 last lap. So he's just hemorrhaging time at the moment. We're just seeing someone dart in the pits behind. That's Zach Baker in the Mustang.
Yep, and quite a few other cars. We'll keep an eye on the timing screens. Dominic Ferraris is also in the pits, but it looks like he must have a problem because he is 2 laps down. I wonder if he's got involved in some contact before. We've also got Alex Cattle making a pit stop. Oh, we've had a spinner as I was looking up.
It's Colin Warwick.
It's Colin Warwick. He's spun around, so he's found himself not involved in this battle anymore. And that, unfortunately, takes him completely out of contention.
What a shame for Colin Warwick. He had such a good qualifying performance, and he was doing a great job battling with the guys for that last podium spot, and now he's thrown that away, and he's currently sitting down. He's gone off again.
Ooh,
he's down in 9th. He's having issues.
I'm wondering if Luke Rosella touched him there, or whether he did it all by himself. It's hard to tell from the angle we were looking at.
He did it all by himself. He had no one around him.
There you go. So Colin Warwick's got no one but himself to blame. Unfortunate. He was having a really strong run.
He certainly was, but now that puts Kurt Stenberg in a very comfortable podium position as it stands. But Thomas McMillan is making some time up. The gap is now 1.6 seconds, and I can see just behind there, Sean Allen is trying to defend against Luke Rosella for P5. and he's actually run Luke Rosell a little bit wide there on the cutback. So great defensive driving there from Sean Allen.
Yeah, we see very different lines through that first corner, and they all seem to work. Colin Warwick is in the pits now, which is probably a sensible time. We're on lap 8 of 19, so he's on lap 8 of 19. The leaders are on lap 9.
And we're just going to... It's probably a little bit of time yet until the leaders will come into the pits, because Dane and Ethan are both looking pretty comfortable out there as it stands at the moment. Mind you, they could prove me very wrong, because we were just talking about tyres earlier before the broadcast started, and there's not really much of a degression, if that's even a word, a gradual decline of tyre quality in these tyres. It's more of a very steep cliff that they fall off at the very end of their lifespan. So we're not going to see any...
For a while,
we won't see any firm indications of whether they need to pit for new tyres until they're actually rolling down the pit lane, I imagine.
Brody Steen, so he's the only one of the leading group to come in on this particular occasion. And just looking further back, he's got quite a gap to RSM Latino behind him in 9th place. And not looking, I was about to say not looking like he's coming in, but he came in from about the middle of the circuit and then pitted. So RSM Latino also taking service.
So, Stenberg, McMillan, Allen, Rosella, and Benjamin Dahlia are all pretty close to being in touching distance at the moment. Dahlia's a little bit off the back of that pack. And Kurt Stenberg has just made his way past some lap traffic that was holding him up for a little bit there. And yeah, it is a tricky track to get past lap traffic on. And that may change the complexion of some of the battles around here. But as it stands, they're all running pretty... Dane Warren's in the pits now, so Dane Warren has made his pit stop, and so has Ethan. So it's going to be a race on pit road between these two. There's not a huge amount that can go wrong in a virtual pit stop here, so there won't be a massive amount of time lost. But we'll see what happens on the exit there. Sean Allen and Luke Rosella are both in the box as well.
Oh, and it looks like Sean Allen has to share a box with Dominic Ferrari.
Oh, no!
I think he's got up on the jacks there, so he's somehow managed to make that work for him. Dane Warren is on the move, but that is a bizarre situation. Somehow those two share a pit box, and somehow Sean Allen has got away ahead of Dominic. Well, Dominic actually has been in the pits for 4 laps based on the screen that I'm looking at, because he's only completed 4 laps and they're on lap 8
Sean
now.
Allen lost a spot to Luke Rosella as a result of that, because he had to try and rearrange his car in the pit lane to get in that box as much as he could, and that little fraction of time that he's lost has pushed him back to P7 as it stands right now. He'll lose a couple more spots as the rest of the traffic flies past.
There goes
so that gives Luke Rosella a free spot.
So that's a shame for Sean Allen. It's definitely not going the way last week did for him. He was just sort of getting a real purple patch. He'd been on the podium for quite a number of races in a row up until he had to run the hard tyres last week, but backed up really well with those 2 wins.
Thomas McMillan's in the pits now.
Thomas McMillan in the pits, and he's joined by Steve Warwick, who's also in the pits. Dominic Ferraris is still in the pits. So if whatever he's fixing, I don't know whether it's worth it, to be honest. Dane Warren now has a 6-second lead over Ethan Warren. So that means that I think Ethan lost a little bit of time through that pit phase.
I think he may have done so indeed. So I'm not sure where he would have lost time, unless he had a little bit of extra damage for whatever reason that he had to repair. But I don't think Ethan Warren came a cropper at any point in the first stage of that race. So may have to investigate that one after the race and see what's happened. So Thomas McMillan's about to make his way back out onto the track. And the pace of Zach Baker behind him means that he may very well get leapfrogged on the run down. But there's a bit of space between them, actually. So Thomas McMillan looks comfortable in 5th as it stands right now.
So Benjamin Dahlia and Kurt Stenberg are the only drivers in that leading group, we believe, that still need to make a pit stop, and Kurt Stenberg is coming in on this particular lap.
So now it's the challenge to see how much time Stenberg and Dahlia, who is pitting at the same time, how much time they were able to make up in the clear air in front of them without much traffic to deal with and without much battling to take care of. So they're both boxing at the moment. Dane Warren is rounding the final corner now, and he will surely get past them before they finish with their stops. But it's a matter of how much time they've made up over 2nd place Ethan, as well as Thomas McMillan, who will be in around about 4th. Fastest lap for Dane Warren there, 104.281.
Yeah, Kurt's not going to come out too far behind Ethan Warren in the end, and he's got a good old gap to Thomas McMillan, it looks like, although this can be deceptive because the closing speed down this straight is incredible when the car's coming out of the pits. But what's the gap? At the apex of turn 1, it's about 1.2 seconds.
Looks like Luke Rosell is trying to throw a dummy on Zach Baker on the run into turn 1 there to make him take a compromising line to try to defend, but nothing doing there. So Rosell has been very aggressive in trying to make passes happen. He's got pace and he knows it, but he just can't seem to get past a few of these cars. He's going to have a look into the turn 6 hairpin. No, he's a bit too far back there.
Yeah, definitely something that would be distracting in the mirrors of Zach Baker, though.
Yeah, for sure. Pressure's a very important thing in a race car, of course. And I know Xeris in Apex Rear Wing likes to avoid looking his rear views as much as he possibly can when he's leading a race. And that's definitely a strategy that can be employed very well here because the racing's so close. Zach Baker would definitely stand, although at the moment they're so close, he has to defend quite a bit because Luke Rosella is not afraid to go for a position when there's a chance of getting it.
So what sort of a slipstream is he able to get down this straight? I reckon he's going to have a go down at turn 1 unless Zach Baker is able to head him off at the pass. But he's signalled his intentions early and he's got up on the curb. He's going to go wide and Zach Baker gets the switchback. But can Luke Rosella get enough traction on the exit of 1 to get up alongside and gets ahead before they get into turn 2? And that is a great move from Luke Rosella.
What a recovery from Luke Rosella. I thought he'd outbroken himself for sure into turn 1. He had to mount the curb, and I reckon that was to take evasive action so he didn't accidentally clamber into the side of Zach Baker. And he ran himself very wide on the exit there, but he was able to convert it. Fantastic racing there from Luke Rosella.
Yeah, I thought it was great driving from the pair of them. I think that Zach Baker saw that Luke Rosella was going a bit deep at turn 1 and had the wherewithal to slip up underneath him. But then, of course, it was Luke Rosella from that point onwards, getting much more traction than I think Zach Baker would have been expecting on the exit after that.
And Sean Allen says, hello, it's time for me to join the party as well. So the battle for P5 has now resumed. And Sean Allen's got quite a lot of pace on that Mustang in front of him as well. Is he going to try and have a look at turn 1? He's going to dive out, but I reckon he's a bit too far back. So maybe in a couple more laps time.
Sean Allen has joined the chat.
Right. There he goes.
Yeah, that was a freebie for Sean. And let's see if Zach Baker can do what Luke Rosella did on the previous lap. No, Sean Allen cuts him off and doesn't allow what Luke Rosella did to Zach Baker. Not allowing Zach Baker to do that to him. So Sean Allen watched that and learnt something. Zach Baker, unfortunately for him, loses 2 spots in 2 laps.
Sean Allen making notes in his book, fill Zach Baker's mirrors wherever possible, and that strategy has paid off immensely. And Sean Allen is up 3 spots from where he qualified, so great run from Allen so far.
So meanwhile at the front, it's still Dane Warren leading this race with 4 laps to go. He holds a 7.5 second advantage over Ethan Warren. Kurt Stenberg, holds 3rd place, and his gap to Thomas McMillan reasonably comfortable, but he still has to push 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, it's not over yet, and a simple mistake at any one of these corners could result in a loss of position for either of these drivers, as we see someone running very, very wide ahead of them. It's one of the low traffic cars.
Yep. Just looking at the map as to who that might be, I think it's going to be Lachlan Horan. Shout out to Lachlan Horan. So there is Dane Warren sublimely out front. What was the term you used in the qualifying session? Robotic?
Robotic. Yeah, something like that. Very robotic consistency from him.
Looking forward to seeing what he can do in the shootout to decide the order for race 2. Longer race.
104.6 that time around. Was a big lock-up in front of him there on the track. I'm not sure who that is. It'll be one of the Warwicks.
Steve Warwick, I think. Yeah, Steve Warwick he's locked up and gone well off the racetrack. Now, he's not obliged to do that. I don't think it was on purpose. It was not a blue flag situation. I think he will be struggling with damage.
Yeah, it hasn't been a great run for Steve Warwick either. He had that crash on the end of the first lap that we saw where he spun onto the inside wall. And I think he's just taken a bit of a dent out of his confidence since then. So he's got the blue flags on him now, and he's actually quite a few laps down. So not a great race for both of the Warwicks, unfortunately, which is always a shame to see. But in the Warren clan, it's definitely on the other end of the spectrum in terms of how good their race is going. With Dane running first.
There's a bit of a battle simmering right now between Luke Rosella and Sean Allen. Both of those drivers having managed to get past Zach Baker in recent laps. I think Sean Allen might have marginally the better pace right now. Although having said that, he was slightly slower on the previous on the previous
Whoa.
first sector.
They nearly cleaned up some lap traffic there who was darting across the track in an effort to get out of the way there.
Another wild card there. Good to see so many wild cards. However, in this, we haven't seen anything really dangerous from the wild cards so far. I know the reason they introduced the Super 2 format early on last year was because they were having some incredibly dangerous driving, and some drivers were races were ruined as a result. But the overall standard of the driving in both classes has gone up measurably.
So we're just watching Rosella now, and we've seen his defensive driving so far this race, and it's a very good effort from him.
Here we go.
Oh, Alan's going to have a look up the inside. There's a bit of contact on the rear quarter panel. That unsettled him, and that's promoted Sean Allen up into P5, but it's a little bit of a strange move there. He made contact for sure. How circumstantial that was in demoting Luke Rosella back to P6, I'm not entirely certain.
Yeah, Luke got 2 wheels on the grass, and I thought that was going to be an express ticket to Wallsville for Luke Rosella, but he held onto it quite well as they both take very, very different lines through that corner. Luke Rosella might have one more tilt at it. Dane Warren, the leader, has begun the final lap of the race, so we're just monitoring his progress. He's coming out of turn 1 now. But I just want to see if Luke Rosella is anywhere near close enough to try and get that position back.
He definitely is. Sean Allen knows it as well. He's trying to dart to the inside to defend, but Rosella tries to carve an even deeper inside line, and he's run straight up into the grass. He's not making the same mistake twice, or he's trying to at least, and it's not working out well for him. And that thrusts Zach Baker back into contention for P6, but there's still a bit of a gap between those two Mustangs. So shame for Luke Rosella there. But Sean Allen just had put the pressure in the right places there on that move into turn 1, and that's paid off. Sean Allen now up into 5th position. Great run, having started in 9th.
Oh, Dane Warren's gone deep at the final corner of the race. How close is Ethan Warren? He's trying to make it a close finish. Those are lap runners behind. Ethan Warren is still 5 seconds behind, so a little bit of a sloppy end to the race for Dane Warren, but he wins in style yet again and is the fastest lap holder as well.
So the gap came down to 6.26 seconds as a result of that. But it is the fastest lap and a race win for Dane Warren. A fantastically commanding victory there. And there's Ethan Warren finishing P2 with Kurt Stenberg crossing the line to round out the podium.
Luke Rosella finishing in 6th ahead of Zach Baker. Brody Steen finishes behind them in 8th. Benjamin Daly and Colin Warwick, after spinning early on, he rounds out the top 10 for the Warwick team. So another strong race. Lots of interesting battles up and down the field, but it's Dane Warren who takes the chocolates from his brother Ethan and Kurt Stenberg.
So that'll widen the points gap at the front once again. Sean Allen won't be able to claw back as many points. He won't be able to leapfrog Dane Warren like he would have liked to, but he's definitely into contention here at the moment. The points are still very, very similar, and that's put Sean Allen in a great spot in terms of points for race 1. He'll have to qualify again for race 2, and hopefully he can fix his qualifying pace to get a better result. But we know he's quick around here, so anything can happen.
Two awful guys. Madbird once again in the chat, noticing that Rosella flashed the lights. I did see that when Sean Allen got past him, so usually they flash the lights to indicate something that they're frustrated about. So maybe he did cop a bit of a serve. Yeah,
I had a look at the contact that they made just before through turn 5 in that final lap. Or was it the lap before? It was a penultimate lap. And it was just enough to unsettle Rosella. And it kicked the back end of the car out. And in an effort to correct it, he sort of steered off the track a little bit. So there wasn't a huge amount he could have done about that one, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, it was a great battle, and both Sean Allen and Luke Rosella showing us some impressive moves in their racecraft with Zach Baker. And further up, it was a little bit more stretched out. Kurt Stenberg didn't have a particularly busy race, nor did the two Warren brothers. And Thomas McMillan was on his own after the first stint. There was a bit of a train emerging at the first stint, and I was going to make a joke about how Thomas McMillan probably should have a champagne sponsorship instead of VB, because he was a bit of a cork in the bottle at the time. But it's the whole situation sort of spread out as soon as I thought of the phrase that I was going to use.
hopefully you get an opportunity to use that again now that you've spoiled it for the rest of us. Hopefully you can use it in genuine use for race 2. We're getting ready for qualifying for said race, which will be getting underway in about 15. I'm not sure what the time. I'm not sure if the I imagine it's back-to-back sessions.
Yes,
I think we're running ahead of schedule, so we'll be running out on track. Yeah.
They're just loading everyone into the game, which takes a while because we've got 19 runners. So the object of the qualifying session will be to set the running order and the top 10 for the shootout. They, of course, will do the shootout in reverse top 10 order. Let's just take you through the qualifying info. Now, bear in mind that the lap record that is in this graphic is wrong. The reason being, the record was broken earlier tonight by Dane Warren, who set I think it was a 104.080 from memory. We're edging ever closer to 103'sville. That's the aim. That's where we want to get to at the end of this qualifying session, or even in the shootout. If you can do it in a shootout, my goodness, that would be impressive.
Do we make a distinction between race laps and qualifying laps in terms of lap records here? Oh, Benjamin Daly has already spun.
Oh, that's no good. That's no good at all.
Gives a little bit of clear air behind Thomas
do
McMillan,
make a distinction. The lap record, well, in the same way that in real life, the lap record can only be set in a race, whereas the qualifying record is something different. So a track record will be slower than the absolute fastest lap that's ever been set around a racetrack, if that makes sense.
Where do you stand? Because I always found this to be a little bit contentious, because you're running the exact same car, and sure, setup is a little bit different. I understand the reasoning for only counting race laps in the race lap record, because you build cars to win races, not to win qualifying sessions. But I've seen a few real-life championships have drifted more to the side of just recognising out-and-out lap speed. I know MotoGP in particular will look at best laps in general over lap records for just race laps. And you also have to look at Bathurst in real life. Not many people pay a huge amount of attention to the race lap record. It's what you can do in the shootout that really counts.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I remember being very confused when I discovered that was the case, because I remember for the longest time the lap records for most of the Grand Prix tracks were held by Michael Schumacher's 2004 car. And then when I attended the 2010 Australian Grand Prix, I was confused why Vettel didn't have the lap record, because his qualifying time was faster than the 2004 lap record. And then I found out that it was because of this reason, that they only counted the race laps for the track record and not the qualifying laps. And it was, I don't know. You sort of, once you get your head around it, you kind of accept it, but maybe we shouldn't accept it.
It was always confusing looking at results sheets from MotoGP, because they would have 3 categories at the bottom: fastest lap, best lap, and lap record, which all meant 3 very separate things, which was confusing as all heck.
Yeah, that is odd. It would be simpler, wouldn't it, to just call it from the fastest lap ever? I mean, qualifying seems to be a better reflection of who's the fastest than a fastest lap in a race in Formula 1, for example, the way that it is now, because, you know, Formula 1, whoever puts on fresh tyres at the end could be the fastest, and if that's a record, then it's a bit meaningless.
It is a little bit, isn't it? I haven't really thought about that now that you mention it, that whole fastest lap challenge at the end. But championship points are a very, very valuable thing, and of course lap records are, in a very cold and technical sense, they're purely academic. They don't give you a huge amount of merit. You don't get a trophy for breaking a lap record. So I guess I don't know what expression I could use to elaborate how I'm feeling about this right now, but it is what it is.
But, you know, I keep coming back to Formula 1 because that's the example that I'm probably most familiar with. You know, during the race, whatever lap times they're doing there is kind of irrelevant. It's all about their position relative to other cars. And they're spending the entire race treating their cars like a 6-month-old baby, because they don't want it to break down in future races, whereas qualifying is the only time they get to turn everything up to 11. Although
I remember when the regulations, I think it was either 2016 or 2017, were brought out, where they made the rear tyres as wide as they possibly could, and they increased the speed of the cars, and they were putting out articles saying that the cars would be going 4 or 5 seconds a lap faster, and everyone was getting really excited, like, oh, the car's going to be so much faster now. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's great and all, but that's completely relative. all the cars are going to be going that much faster. And are they going to be able to pass each other this year? And spoiler alert, they weren't.
Yeah,
But
I do love this iteration of the cars. I agree that the racing isn't as good, but they're impressive.
They certainly are, and like I've really been enjoying watching Formula One, even though like my housemates have been like, you know, why do you sit down and watch Black Mercedes win every single week? it's good
Sometimes
because
they
you can
don't.
see. Sometimes they don't. That's true. Max Verstappen got the win at the 70th anniversary race, but there's also a lot of value to be had in watching the midfield battles as well, and that's something I always try and reflect in commentary when I'm commentating on races where there's dominating victories. It happens a lot in Apex Rear Wings. Xeris is one of the quickest guys in that category, and in some of the real life racing I've done as well in the 944 challenge, there's always going to be one bloke out the front who's just dominating the rest of the field. So it's good to give the other drivers throughout the field a shout out for what they're doing, and some of the midfield battles like we were seeing in the last race between Luke Rosella and Sean Allen were great viewing. So let's have a look at the qualifying, because while we're having that discussion, we've gone through half a qualifying session. So the top 10, as it stands at the moment, we've got the two Warrens, Dane and Ethan in first and second. Thomas McMillan is third with Sean Allen fourth. Luke Rosella is in P5 with Kurt Stenberg in P6. Colin Warwick is seventh. Benjamin Dahlia is eighth. Brody Steen is ninth. And Zach Baker is 10th. Now, David Nenadich is just narrowly out of the top 10 at the moment by a factor of 0.076. So those few guys at the bottom are going to have to be pushing really hard to try and make their way into the shootout. And Brody Steen, Zach Baker has now pushed himself up to ninth position. So Brody Steen is now on the cusp of being knocked out. The gap between Brody Steen in 10th and David Nenadich is 0.144 of a second. So Brody Steen's just on an outlap now, trying to get some heat into his tyres and his brakes, and we'll see what he can do on his second flying run.
David Nenadich is on a lap, and he's up by nearly a tenth of a second on his own personal best, and that would be pretty close. He needs a little bit more. He's found another tenth or two, but he's losing it. He's losing the back end. He's managed to save it, but he's thrown away a bucket load of time. He was 2 tenths up, and that would have been enough to put him in the top 10. I fear the timing screens are not going to shine favourably upon David Nenadich when he comes to the line. In fact, he's given up completely on that lap.
He's only going to have one more tilt at getting into the top 10, so he's going to have to turn that car around as soon as he possibly can. Meanwhile, Alex Cattle, I don't know if he's on a flyer at the moment, but he is currently just under 3 tenths of a second off Brody Steen. He's just started a flyer, so he'll be one to watch as well.
Whoops, I've cut to a black screen on my other monitor, which you guys didn't see, so I didn't need to say that. Alex Cattle in 12th place. Let's see whether he can make any improvement. Brody Steen, the man on the bubble, will be feeling a little bit nervous, I should think, and he is on the racetrack looking to improve. In fact, he has gone up by a tenth of a second, and such fine margins that would actually put him up 2 or 3 spots. Let's just quickly follow Brody Steen's lap to the end of it to see whether he does improve and how much by, if indeed so. 10th place now. He's lost it all on the final corner. Unbelievable. Alex Cattle too has managed to lose time through the final sector, so they're all finding that the pressure is coming to them in the end of the lap. Let's see if Alex Cattle can improve on the final sector.
Blair Warren says I might have to wave a 50 at the boys to break into the 103s, and you might be right there, Blair, because how are the lap times looking at the front of the field at the moment? Dane Warren's got a 104.091 under his belt, so he's so close to the 103s, but just a little bit off. So not too far away yet. David Nenadich is pulling out of the pits now. There's 1 minute and 40 to go in the session. He will have time to come around and start one more flying lap to get himself into the shootout.
Yeah, we haven't really been focusing on the 103 battle because we're looking at this top 10 situation, but wouldn't it be something if they did jump into the 103s? 104.091, that's about, it's very, very close to what Dane Warren did in the first qualifying session tonight. We talked about the remarkable consistency, and Ethan Warren a quarter of a second or so down. That's more or less his ceiling in qualifying 1 as well.
All right, so David Nenadich is on his outlap. Brody Steen is on a flyer at the moment, and he will have maybe one more lap after this one if he can't get this one perfect where he wants it. So Brody Steen is looking to defend his position. He's down 0.015 on his personal best, so he's not doing great so far. But if he can get around the rest of this lap mistake-free, he might have one more chance of defending his shootout position. Everyone else ahead is feeling pretty safe at the moment. David Nenadic is going to cross the line now to start his flyer, so we'll check in with him a little bit later as he goes through the sectors. Alex Cattle is in the pit lane. He will not be improving, neither will anyone else behind. Dane Licciardo is up 3/10 on his personal best, down in 15th, but that will only put him up one spot ahead of Steve Warwick. So the real battle we're looking at the moment is Brody Steen, who's on the final corner now. I'm not sure what his time's looking like.
He's not going to improve. He got it all crossed up in that final section, and he was well down through the second sector split. But
he is still out there.
Well, he is still out there, and he crossed the line with 5 seconds to go. So he does have another opportunity if the tyres are still with him. Let's see what David Nenadic is up to. Can he knock Brody Steen out of the top 10? That would be a remarkable achievement if he's able to do so. He needs to find a little bit more time. He's up on his PB by 0.043 of a second. And I think he needs to find a little bit more than that. A 10th and a half through the final sector would be lovely, said David Nenadic. And he comes to the line, currently sat in 11th. Does he improve? No, he doesn't.
No. So Brody Steen is comfortable in 10th. He knows it. He's departed the track surface, and he has made it through to the top 10 shootout, and he will be the first car out on track in that session.
So Dane Warren, Ethan Warren, Sean Allen, Thomas McMillan, Colin Warwick, Kurt Stenberg, Luke Rosella, Benjamin Dahlia, Zach Baker, and Brody Steen. That's your top 10. They'll qualify in the reverse order to what I just mentioned them.
I'm not sure what the rules and settings are on the server in terms of track evolution throughout a session. Do you know if the track rubbers up a bit as a shootout wears on or as a session wears on?
It does.
Or it does?
Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah, and so you can actually set the starting point for whether the racetrack is heavily worn or a green track, and as the session goes on, the track tends to get faster and faster, but usually it would be reset. So after race 1 it would have been reset, and so we would have been at roughly the same sort of grip level as the first qualifying session with this qualifying session, but there is a potential for the shootout for it to be slightly grippier again.
And of course they'll be pushing as hard as they possibly can. I'm not sure what the tyre strategy is going to be for this shootout, whether they reuse an old set from qualifying or they crack out a fresh batch for the shootout and then use it in the race. That probably is the best call to go with, as a matter of fact, now that I'm thinking. But that's probably what I'd do if I was in the car, but I'm not. So let's see what these guys do. Well, Brody Steen is now pulling out. Yeah,
we'll try and capture him. So he's about to jump into his out lap, and here he is. Now that is a good point. You bring up the tyres. They have the same allocation of 5 sets of tyres for this second race and qualifying sessions to what they had for race 1. But it's much more of a limitation for this because they have to get through the qualifying session, the shootout, and then a longer race, which potentially will need up to 3 sets of tyres. How many did they use to get to the shootout? I think that might have been why we only saw a 104.09 from Dane Warren, because I didn't check it, but I have a feeling he only did 1 run in that qualifying session.
Yeah, I reckon it was just a one and done sort of thing. Don't need to put any more wear into the tyres if you don't absolutely need to. And now we're seeing Brody Steen heading out on track for his warm-up. So it's a top 10 shootout format that we often see that is very famously utilised at Bathurst, as well as many other championships and races around the world. Basically, 1 lap, 1 shot, 1 opportunity. Are you going to take it or are you going to let it slip? This is how you qualify for race 2. You've got to get your lap time absolutely perfect. You've got to get your setup perfect, your temperatures ideal on the run down the main straight. Otherwise, you're going to end up a little bit further down than you mean to. It's a good way to make up for a loss of good pace in qualifying if you get stuck in some traffic, but that determines, obviously with this shootout, it's just you on the track alone, nobody else. You've got no draft to help you, no tow up the main straight, so any regular strategies you might have for qualifying pace will be out the window, and it's just you alone on the black stuff. And Brody Steen has rounded the first corner, the final corner, and he's going to cross the start-finish line to start his flying lap now.
You often see people go full send on these laps, especially if they're starting near the back to start with. They've got nothing to lose. They can start no worse than 10th, so they'll just give it absolutely everything, and if they throw it at the scenery, it doesn't matter because they would have been they would have been there anyway. So if they can find a few grid spots by absolutely giving it 11 out of 10, then they will do that.
22.439 is his sector time in the first split so far. Roundabout on par for where you expect a time for these supercars around this track. Won't really have a fair indication of whereabouts he's going to be sitting in comparison to the rest of the field until he crosses the line, and I can compare those times to qualifying. He'll be coming up on the second sector split pretty soon now, and it is a 44.5. So he's hitting his apexes quite neat and tidy. He did lose a bit of time in turn 1 when he ran wide, but let's see what he can do now in the final corner. He's got it nice and tidy through 13 and 14. A little bit wobbly on the exit there. That might cost him a couple of Ks an hour, and that'll reflect in his time. We've ticked over the 1 minute mark, and he's going to cross the start-finish line. It is a 1:05.051. So that puts him in provisional pole as being the only car out on the track so far, and that sets the benchmark for the rest of the shootout.
Yeah, it was a tidy lap from Brody Steen. Didn't see any obvious mistakes apart from that turn 1 going a little bit wide that you mentioned, and maybe that was just down to brake temperature. Let's see what Zach Baker can do on his lap.
Shall we jump on board and have a look at an onboard view around the circuit stairs?
Why not? Let's do that. Here is on board with Zach Baker. Can he improve on Brody Steen? Coming
Holding
down.
it as
Sorry, you
hard
go.
as you... Sorry. Holding it as hard as you possibly could. We should have elaborated on that. So he keeps it nice and tidy. It's a very long corner turn 1, so you've got to make sure you can stick on the apex as much as you can. Use as much of the runoff as you can on the exit through turn 2. 3 and 4, nice and neat. A lot of dogleg flip-flops here. Jump on the brakes. There's a little bit of banking to help you get through turn 5, and he's utilised that to perfection. A little bit of tie on the runoff of turn 5 there. On the anchors again for turn 6, another very tight hairpin there. Very, very well done indeed there. No late apex or anything like that because there's a pretty short run down to turn 7 with a little bit more banking there to help him out. Very quick corner here through this 8, 9, 10 quote-unquote corners complex, and he's up very, very slightly on Brody Steen, but he's gotten 2 wheels up on the air there through turn 10. Is that going to compromise him just a little bit? A few vague apexes here in the final part of the circuit makes things a little bit interesting. All the runoff and a little bit more on the edge of the final corner, and he's brought it all the way out to the edge of the track. He's going to cross the line. It'll be a 1:05.22. So Zach Baker was not able to best Brody Steen.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad lap, but just wasn't quite enough. Brody Steen was, you saw on Brody's lap, he was wiggling around, so he was clearly pushing the limit there. So maybe Zach Baker was a little bit circumspect there.
Possibly indeed. Benjamin Dahlia now, who we saw have a pretty strong run in the last race. Can he improve on his qualifying position to get up in the higher echelons of the starting grid for race 2?
Yeah, he's been doing an incredible job in the Super 2 Championship. He's got 8 wins out of a possible 19. Only not leading that championship because of a bit of inconsistency, but showing very much that he belongs in the main game, getting the call up almost every week is Benjamin Dahlia, but he's 2/10 down through the first sector, so he's got it all to do at this stage.
Yeah, not a lot of time gained there through the first sector, and he's actually cut it a little bit narrow through turn 6, so that's really going to compromise him because he's really got no grip on that curb. Upsets the aero just a little bit, even though the aero doesn't really matter too much at those speeds. But every thousandth of a second matters around here, and you can see how much time he's lost. There's another 3/10 gone through the second sector alone.
He was an age getting on the throttle out of turn 6, so I don't know quite why that was, but maybe he's just doing a slow and steady lap, and if anyone gets a track cut or throws it at the scenery, then he will start 10th. Maybe he's taking care of his tyres, I don't know, but it's going to be 3rd place for Benjamin Dahlia. He slots in 6/10 adrift of Brody Steen.
Yeah, pit strategy is going to be interesting because it's double the length here, but we're only probably going to be adding an extra stop. So you're going to have to either lengthen or shorten your stints here for the 38 lapper that we're going to be facing very soon. So it may even be beneficial for some of these guys to just save a little bit, a lap and a half of wear on their rubber and use it to their advantage to get out of a sticky situation, give them a bit of flexibility with the battle. Luke Rosella, speaking of battling, who are having a lot of fun watching in race 1, is now on his shootout lap. Let's see what he can do. Can he improve from P5 where he finished in qualifying?
Down into turn 1, looks pretty good. Drifts a little bit wide though. He would have wanted to keep the nose in a bit tighter, and then the rear doesn't agree with him when he starts stabbing at the throttle pedal. Whether or not that lost him any time, well, we'll have to look at the split. It's coming up right now, and it agrees with him. 1/10 up is Luke Rosella.
He likes a bit of oversteer. I've seen him sliding through turn 1, at least the exit of it, all night so far. He loves to get the back end out of that Ford Mustang. and it's all the more merry for his lap times and for us as spectators, because it's always great to watch a bit of oversteer around here. He's up on the second sector split now, and he's still half a tenth in front of Brody Steen. So very, very close, but he's consistently up all the way around here. So can he convert that to a strong final sector? He's onto the main straight now.
Fine margins in this qualifying session, but Luke Rosella has looked the goods so far this lap. He'll come across the line and will take provisional pole position and increases his lead marginally through that final sector again.
He will be the first of the drivers into the 104s. Can we get into the 103s in this shootout session? So far, we're pretty far off. We're a whole second off the 103s.
Yep.
And it makes me a little bit unsure of whether we're going to see that, but anything can happen. Who knows? Maybe the Warrens have been sandbagging quite a bit. Kurt Stenberg now is going to cross the line to start his flyer.
Yep, here is the defending champion of the Automobilista Supercars Championship, Kurt Stenberg. Let's see how he shapes up into turn one. They all drift a bit wider, I think, than they would have ideally liked to, but that looked good from Kurt Stenberg. Similar to Luke Rosella, but a little bit tinier, so I expect to see him up on the timesheets. Do the timesheets make a mockery of me? Yes, but not by much. 4 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, very marginal. It's pretty much negligible, but red as red and green is green. So even if you're just a hair behind the guy in front, you're still behind him. So you've got to make sure that you can get up into the green and get in front of him. So at the second sector split, is he going to improve in the second sector?
Yes, he is.
He's up 10th and some change.
Well, we saw that Luke Rosella was good through the final sector. That looked, was that a little bit wide for Kurt Stenberg? Did he have to lift out of the throttle? Did he understeer? He's drag racing to the line. Look how close he is to the wall there. This is the guy who built this track, so if anyone can master it, it's him. Kurt Stenberg loses out in the final sector to Luke Rosella by half a tenth. These are close margins in this qualifying session.
Back into the 105s indeed. So Stenberg lost a bit of time in that final sector, and we're just waiting for the next car to come around, who will be
Colin Warwick.
So he qualified very strongly in the first race. He got third on the grid, wasn't able to convert it, only finished 10th after a bit of an accident where he spun off the track at the exit of turn one. Can he reverse those fortunes for race two? This is where we start to find out.
Yep, Colin Warwick has had a good night in qualifying. Race one didn't go to plan, but the pace he's shown tonight has been impressive, and that looks good through turn one. Let's see whether he lights up those timing screens. Here is the beacon right about here, and it's not good for Colin Warwick. He's lost a tenth and a half already.
Early days yet, you never know where he's going to find some more time in the later stages. On the anchors for turn 6, and he's run it a little bit wide off the apex, going for a late apex, trying to get some bit more speed into turn 7. It's a little bit of an interesting strategy there. Let's see if it pays off, because the second beacon isn't too far away. As a matter of fact, he'll be just around the next corner here, and he is about the same. He's about on par with where he was, so he hasn't lost a huge amount of time, but he is still a tenth and a half down, so he's got some work to do. This would put him in provisional 4th as we stand at the moment. Yeah,
final sector was where Kurt Stenberg threw it away. What has Colin Warwick got in response to what Luke Rosella has thrown down on the racetrack? It's not quite good enough. He's going to slot into 4th place behind Brody Steen. So these really are fine margins. We've got 4 drivers within just over a tenth of a second.
Time for the green machine now. Thomas McMillan for Pleb Simsport in the ZB Commodore. The Vic Bitter machine is about to cross the line to start his flying lap.
Dun, 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 dun.
It's good theme music for a shootout lap, isn't it?
Isn't it? I'm sure he would appreciate that. Little bit wiggly under brakes into 1, and he locks up. Does that cost him? I imagine it will.
It will, but we do know there's pace out on the exit of that corner, because we saw Luke Rosella slingshot back past, I think it was Brody Steen or Sean Allen, who was battling in the first race. He's down, but not by a huge amount. 0.115 is the margin, so he's roughly sitting about where Colin Warwick is. I say by not by much, but he's still going to be sitting in provisional 4th at the moment. That could change quite a bit as the lap wears on. He's looking pretty tidy through turn 6 though, so he may improve in the latter stages of this lap. Very
careful on acceleration out of there, out of turn 6 there, and wiggled a little bit on the exit. Oh, he's lost a fair bit of time there. 2.5 tenths of a second. I don't think he's going to be able to find that time back. He's slotting in behind Zach Baker as it stands, unless he can find a little something through the final sector. Very, very wide through the final corner. What can Thomas McMillan do? Is it fourth?
He's got a hard-earned
fifth?
first for a 104, but he's not going to get it. It's a 1 minute 5.294, and that's put him down into P6. So not a great shootout lap for Thomas McMillan.
Yeah, and he's got a hankering for the wall, and matter of fact, he's got it now.
Sean Allen, our race winner last time out. One of our race winners last time out. We know he's quick around here. Had some great battling with Luke Rosella, who is currently sitting P1 in this shootout session. Can Sean Allen bring the challenge to him for Race on Oz?
Yeah, Sean Allen, good in that qualifying session. Let's see what he can do in the shootout. And he's just got the Warren brothers after him, so the 104.9, I reckon he'll back himself in here. A little bit deep under brakes. Does he hook up the apex? I wonder how much speed he carried through. That was hard to read. We see so many lines working through that corner. This will be the real barometer. He's up, he's up. He's not by much, but he's up. As you said, red is red and green is green.
It certainly is, and he's only up by 0.02 of a second, so the onus is really on him now to make sure he can maintain that pace all the way around the lap. Madbird in the chat saying, hankering for the wall, matter of fact, he's got it now, is why you're the best in the business, Daz. And that was a pretty good quote, I do say myself.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, he's down 0.02 of a second, so such a close margin at the front. This final sector is where it's all going to make the difference. He runs a little bit wide in the exit of turn 11 there. Hasn't eaten into his time too much. It's a very narrow exit onto turn 14. Not running very wide at all. No runoff necessary for Sean Allen, apparently. Different line. Is it going to pay off? Crosses the line.
Oh, you got a tracker. That's it. Sean Allen's going to be starting from 10th. Oh, how disappointing. He was so close. Is there going to be another surprise in this shootout? I have to think there will be, because we've got Ethan Warren and Dane Warren still to come, and we've already been spoiled in this session.
What a shame. That was going to be a second row of the grid start for sure, at the very least, for Sean Allen. And we know he's quick around here. That's such a shame. But we also know he can battle. So keep an eye on him in race 2, because he's going to be great to watch. Ethan Warren's on his flying lap now.
Whoa.
Oh, not super tight into turn 1. He's run it quite wide, but he's pulled it in very neat and tidily on the exit apex of turn 1. Is that going to eat into his lap time too much? And where's that going to put him in relation to the rest of the field?
Yeah, I reckon he'll recover it there. He's up by nearly a 10th, so he just sort of V'd the first corner. He's wide through 5. I wonder if he got 2 wheels on the grass. These guys always look like they're on the edge of losing control, but they're so good, and don't necessarily lose any time when you think they're going to. So let's see what the second sector time says for Ethan Warren. He's found nearly 0.2 of a second from where he was on the first sector.
That's unbelievable. He almost had Luke Rosella there for comfort right next to him on the grid, but it looks like he's going to push him back by quite a bit. He's run it very wide on the exit of turn 14. Millimeter perfection to the wall there. He'll cross the line. This will put him provisionally first.
Yep.
Easily, by half a second.
I'm sure he'll be disappointed with it, but he still knocked it out of the park. Ethan Warren, ladies and gentlemen, let's see what his brother Dane can do.
Speaking of half a second, that's what Dane's going to need to be able to push into the 103s. I reckon this is the last chance we're going to see tonight. Can Dane Warren get a 103?
Just before he starts this lap, incredible good job from Luke Rosella. Whatever happens, he's going to start no lower than 3rd, and that might just be his best qualifying in this championship.
And if he can defend all the way from 3rd, because I'm not sure how well he'll be able to hold on to the back of the Warren brothers in front of him, but if he does, fantastic. But if he doesn't, then he knows how to defend, and it'll be a very strong chance for a podium finish for him as well. But Dane Warren is the man out on track at the moment. The spotlight is on the championship leader. He takes the first sector split, and he's up by 0.121. So it's very close margins in the first sector. This second sector, where we're seeing a lot of technical action here with the lefts and rights, is where we really start to see the drivers shine.
Yeah, it's looked pretty good from Dane Warren. He hasn't looked flamboyant, but he hasn't looked slow. He's just looked clean and fast, and ever so slightly on the edge. And he's up in the second sector split by 1/4 of a second. Oh, I don't know if he's got the time in hand in that final sector to pull out a 3, but let's see what it happens. It's going to be pole position no matter what happens.
He would have needed to find an extra 0.3 at least in that 3rd sector, and it's very short, but he's going to cross the line now. His time is going to be a 1 minute 4.205. Dane Warren is your pole sitter for race 2.
Yeah, as expected, clinical lap, very, very fast, about a quarter of a second ahead of his brother Ethan, which is the same sort of margin that he had through qualifying 1 and the qualifying session to decide the order for the shootout. But sublime performance there from Dane Warren, taking pole position yet again.
Did not put a foot wrong all the way around this circuit, and it's just really a testament to how quick he is and how his championships results are looking. You look at a lap time like that, no sliding whatsoever, got every single apex absolutely down to perfection, and that is the benefit. He'll be starting from pole position yet again.
So big winners in the session, of course, the two Warren brothers. Big shout out to Luke Rosella, great performance there. Sean Allen, he's got to be the most disappointed man of the 10, of course, not ending up with a registered time after looking like he was going to be the best of the race.
Yeah, what a shame that was, but it's making me really excited for what he can do in the race, because it was great to watch him last time out in those battles with Kurt Stenberg, Colin Warwick, and I think it was Thomas McMillan actually who was up in the front echelons with him there, keeping him honest. But he's had some good running tonight, and I hope he can keep that form up. Keep an eye on Sean Allen out of 10th position. That is your shootout, ladies and gentlemen. So Dane Warren, P1, next to Ethan Warren on the front row of the grid, a quarter of a second behind him. Luke Rosella starts from 3rd with Kurt Stenberg in 4th. Brody Steen will be on P5 with Colin Warwick next to him in 6th position. A pretty good result from Colin Warwick. Not as good as 3rd last time out, but still very, very good. And it's a good chance for him to push up and improve on his race 1 finishing result. Zach Baker will be starting from 7th on the grid next to Thomas McMillan in 8th. Benjamin Dahlia is in 9th. And as we said, 10th will be Sean Allen as a result of not being able to put a time down.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to attempt to do the world's fastest human pit stop while we go for a very quick break. So if there is a slight pause on the other side of the break, that's why. I haven't quite got back yet. We'll see you very shortly indeed.
All the information you want about the Automobilista Supercars Championship is now all in one place. Visit asc.rocksolidmates.com for all the official ASC content, including season calendars, results and championship points, broadcast information, rules and regulations, lap records, and more. You can also get updates on our official ASC Facebook page. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell notification icon to get notified whenever we go live for all championship races.
The Automobilista Supercars Championship is proudly brought to you by RSM, Rock Solid Mates, ARW, Apex Rear Wing, CW, Colin Warwick Designs, and Jinx Shifters.
Alright everyone, welcome back to the 9th round of the Automobilista Supercars Championship. I evidently need to make the break slightly longer in order to give myself a chance to fully urinate. I walked into almost everything in my house. I almost did a Kool-Aid man through the fly screen door, which I didn't realise was shut, and then tripped over an outside chair and yanked my earphones out of the laptop with gay abandon.
I would have made that if it weren't for me having to run downstairs and turn the heater off, because I am on fire up in my office at the moment. So, and not in just in a figurative sense, I'm pretty much melting into my seat right now. So
that doesn't do it all.
No, not at all. But I'm going to make use of some of this nice, cool outside Melbourne air to help with that, as we're just starting to see the cars getting ready in their warm-up session for race 2.
Yep, we've had the shootout, so now it's all about this second race, which is one of the longest races they've done for quite a while. We've gone to this sort of sprint race format on the other side of the COVID lockdown, in line with what's been happening in real life, and so this is the first two-race format since that long break. And so that'll be very interesting to see whether they're a bit rusty in these longer races, because they're used to much shorter ones.
Yep, this is the same race length that we get in the main game for the Triple Crown. 38 laps, 110 kilometre distance. So it'll be a good example of what they can do in comparison to the guys running in the main game, I think.
Absolutely. Well, two awful guys once again. Madbird saying, don't let too much of that Melbourne air in. It's sort of not a joke for you guys anymore, because you guys are living it, and we're sort of... across the border, things are almost normal in where we are, but we're very much aware of how quickly things can turn.
Yeah, I've almost gotten used to it, and it's really good to see the numbers starting to come down again. But I've been talking to my housemates about this. Once everything's all done and dusted, we're going to walk out of our houses and have no idea how to compose ourselves as human beings. Because we've been cooped up for so long, we'll try and go out and socialise, and we'll just completely forget how to do it.
That's all right. I have no idea how to compose myself as a human being at the best of times. So, you know.
You and me both, buddy. It'll make for an interesting experience.
We can not know how to compose ourselves as human beings together.
I'm just glad I got to see you earlier this year for the Phillip Island Classic. That was a great time.
I got that one in just in time, didn't I?
Yeah,
that was
we
March.
did.
I flew on a plane in March. I don't think I'll be saying that again for a little while. All right,
hopefully,
race 2. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, hopefully the days where we can sit trackside at Phillip Island sinking beers, watching old classics going around, can return sooner rather than later. But we got some virtual supercars coming up on track very soon to tide us over, and the action is going to be just as juicy here tonight.
Oh, absolutely. 38 laps, that's 110 racing kilometres in this second race. Pit window maybe lap 13 to 20. That was based on last year's numbers. We will see the track record held by Jake Maloney from last year. Well, that's already disappeared, hasn't it? Firmly in the pocket of Dane Warren. Last week's winners, of course, McMillan, Allen and Allen. Earlier tonight, Dane Warren took victory from his brother Ethan Warren, and they line up in that same order once again tonight in race 2.
So we're just waiting for a couple more cars to take to the grid now before we get underway for formation, and that is 17 cars starting this race. So we're missing a couple from just before. Grid is going to be dwindled by just a couple of drivers, but we're out on the warm-up lap now, and it'll be Dane Warren who starts this race from pole position with that great time in the top 10 shootout next to his brother Ethan Warren. Once again, it's a Warren 1-2 for the start of race 2. Luke Rosella, after a strong performance in trying to get through the field in race 1, has qualified in a sensational third, and we'll see what he can do from the Tamiya Mustang there. Kurt Stenberg will be lining up next to him in 4th on the grid. Brody Steen, the first of the Race on Oz Mustang cars, will be behind in 5th. Colin Warwick will be starting from P6 next to Zach Baker, or in front of Zach Baker, I should say, in 7th. Thomas McMillan, qualifying a little bit further down than he normally would have liked, is in 8th position to start this one. Benjamin Dahlia right behind him in 9th, and Sean Allen, after getting a track cut and not registering a time in the shootout, will be 10th. Now, in terms of the guys who didn't make it to the shootout, we've got David Nenadic, who just missed out, will be starting from 11th next to Alex Cattle in P12. RSM Latino will be 13th on the grid next to Steve Warwick in 14th. Dane Licciardo in P15 will be next to Barap, and then we've got Lachlan Horan rounding out the grid in 17th.
Superbly done, Matty. Predictions for this race? Can you see Ethan taking the fight to Dane tonight?
Madbird will be able to attest to this. My predictions have always resulted in chaos, and I'm not sure how comfortable I am in putting a prediction down for the sake of all the guys involved here. I'm going to say, because I'm an optimist, I want to see Luke Rosella getting the win. How likely it is, I'm not entirely sure, but I just really like looking at that car, and I want to see it do well.
So you're tipping Dane and Ethan Warren to have each other off at the first corner then?
Mercedes 2016 Spain style. I don't want it to happen for their sake, but for entertainment's sake, geez, couldn't ask for much more.
Yeah. Interesting. Remind me about 2016 Spain. I've got something I want to talk about later on, but right now we've got to get started for race 2 tonight. The lights are on, and the revs are rising. And off the line, Dane and Ethan Warren are going to drag race. A lot of wheel spin from Dane Warren. Ethan Warren might have got a slightly better start. Look at Kurt Stenberg diving his way up the inside. There's lots of switching back and forth going on, and through into the second place position goes Kurt Stenberg ahead of Dane, who's had an awful start. It's Ethan leading the way.
Hasn't that thrown a spanner in the works? So Dane Warren is down now in P3, and Thomas McMillan is 4th. A fantastic start from him, well up from where he started in 8th position. There was a bit of movement and shaking back there. I think Stephen Warwick hit the wall, which is unfortunate, so that's demoted him to 17th on the grid. And now Thomas McMillan is all over the back of Dane Warren, trying to get past. He's not going to find a way through at turn 6, but turn 7, he may have another opportunity. Dane Warren covers the inside line, and there's a bit of a spin in the background there. Someone's departed to the infield, and that will be Dane Licciardo. Benjamin Dahlia started strongly as well. He's down in 17th, so it's a really poor start from Benjamin Dahlia.
And meanwhile, in the midfield, we've got a hell of a battle going on between the two ZB cars and the two Race on Oz cars. Sean Allen trying to make his way up from a 10th place start. It's actually, well, he's not made up any positions whatsoever. It is Brody Steen leading Zach Baker and Sean Allen. And in fact, what happened there? Sean Allen's timing go haywire? Where has it gone? He's still on the racetrack. We'll follow that one, or I am blind. Meanwhile, at the front, it's a lot of pressure that Dane Warren's under. He's having to defend position from Thomas McMillan, who's put him under all sorts of pressure right now. What is going on? Did he put hards on?
Mac Mittens on the back of Dane. Be afraid, says Madbird. And I think Dane Warren has every reason to be afraid, because McMillan is on an absolute flyer. Did Dane Warren put the hards on? He's going to have a look up the inside. There's a little tiny bit of contact. They would have swapped about a square millimetre of paint there, I reckon. There's not very much in it. But they're still racing, and side by side is Sean Allen with Brody Steen there. I think Allen's going to get the line through turn number 7. So it's the two Race on Oz cars in 7th and 8th, and they're in the middle of a ZB Racing Mustang sandwich.
Yeah, Brody Steen holding the inside line there on David Nenadich, but manages to stay ahead for the next corner. But David Nenadich will have a great run onto the main straight. Meanwhile, RSM Latino and Alex Cattle with a watching brief behind. Meanwhile, out front, Ethan Warren has a 1.7 second advantage over Kurt Stenberg as Dane Warren retakes 3rd place from Thomas McMillan, and Thomas McMillan serves him up a little bit and tries to take advantage of that, a bump and run, if you will. I don't know, maybe Dane Warren thought that he would do this on a one-stop by running the hards, but all my experience on the hards shows that they don't last. I'm not anywhere near as good a driver as Dane Warren, though.
You want to hear how good my prediction was? Luke Rosella is DNF in the pits.
Dane Warren has gone off at 6. He's locked up and has lost that, he's lost that battle that he was having with Thomas McMillan and put himself in another battle, this time with Colin Warwick.
Oh my goodness, the race is really unfolding already, and it's only lap 3. Dane Warren's got Colin Warwick swarming all over the back of him, and he just really felt under pressure there, didn't he? And just speared off the track, and this is just,
it's got to be hard tyres. I 100%, I'm not going to bet you my house because I don't have a house. And, that's a whole nother thing. But, yes, were I a betting man, I would put a large sum of money on the fact that Dane Warren must have hard tyres on.
He must do, and he has to stick with him until at least the first round of pit stops, because he's not going to gain much time by stopping for softs early, even though there may be a little bit more of a stable tyre.
Oh, someone's
That's going to really put Warren on the back foot. Someone has spun. I'm just going to try and figure out who that is. It's one of the ZB Racing Mustangs. It's David Nenadich.
No.
He's dropped down to 13th.
That's a real shame for David Nenadich. He was having a reasonably strong run, and let's see if we can catch a replay for that. He just went wide at turn 1 and then lit up the rears while he was on the grass, and thankfully, when he spun, managed to stay out of the way of all the oncoming traffic. But that has dropped David Nenadich down to 13th place, right in the middle of the action.
So Luke Rosella DNF'd at the start there, and we were just trying to figure out what it was. He's jumped in the YouTube comments now, and he mispressed the neutral button instead of the look left button and absolutely grenaded his engine. What a shame for Luke Rosella.
Yeah, I wonder if we can catch a replay of that. It was a little while ago, so it might be too long for us to do so. But sorry to hear that, Luke Rosella. Congratulations on a fantastic qualifying session. Unfortunately, well, 3rd place. Was it 3rd place that Colin Warwick qualified for race 1? It seems to have a bit of a curse upon it, that the strong qualifiers aren't doing so well in the race itself.
I reckon my commentator's curse has more to do with that, and I have to probably give some clarity to Luke Rosella as to what's happened, as to why Madbird is so excited for you being out of the race. Oh, what's happened?
I was just was watching Dane Warren with 2 wheels on the grass and was incredibly
Sean
lucky to
Allen's
hang on
gone
to
wide,
it.
and so is RSM Latino, and that's a battle they've been having for 8th position, and Brody Steen's going to shoot up and get the both of them into 7th place.
So Luke Rosella's incident, we're going to watch a replay of the onboard of what happened to Luke Rosella, I keep saying. Here he is, coming into turn 1. Just listening. There it is. That's the false neutral. He went into neutral unintentionally and blipped the throttle, and that was all she wrote for Luke Rosella, unfortunately pulling over to the side of the road and prematurely retiring from this race.
So let's take stock of where we are at the moment as the field has started to get settled in before the first round of pit stops. So Ethan Warren is leading the race by almost 4 seconds over Kurt Stenberg in P2. Ahead behind them, we've got Thomas McMillan, who's up in 3rd from where he started down in 8th position. So a great start from McMillan. Dane Warren, uncharacteristically 4th at the moment, with Colin Warwick trying to fight him for 5th position. Zach Baker behind them in P6. Brody Steen is currently trying to hold off RSM Latino for 7th and 8th respectively. We've got Sean Allen running 9th, and Alex Cattle is up a couple of spots. He rounds out the top 10.
Yeah, behind him we've got David Nenadic, where he qualified. So despite the fact that we lost a car ahead of him in Luke Rosella, David Nenadic has lost a spot and then gained it back. So it doesn't really tell the full story, saying that he's where he qualified. Benjamin Dahlia is on the recovery drive after dropping back to 17th, I think it was, you said, Matty, on the opening lap. Steve Warwick is currently in the grass because he's had a spin by the looks of it. So we'll just, while we have the opportunity, catch a replay of what happened to Steve Warwick. He was, I believe, in 13th place anyway. And he lit up the rears. I thought it was going to be up on the grass. So he's done that all by himself. And then behind Steve Warwick is Dane Licciardo in 14th, Lachlan Horan in 15th, and Brapp in 16th, 1 lap down, the last driver running.
What's happened to Dane Warren? He's down in P6.
And he must have had some more issues with this tyre. We'll try and catch a replay of what's happened to him, but you can see him there running more or less on his own. So he's got a 2-second gap ahead of him and a 6-second gap behind him.
He spun on the exit of turn 14. I'll just have to rewind the replay. Oh no, he clipped the wall. You'll see that when you go to find the replay yourself, Stairs. But he got a little bit too close to the wall and he nailed it. So he may even have damage.
Yeah, that's something he'll have to watch out for when he comes in to make his pit stop, to ensure that he didn't, well, unless he needs to repair the damage, it's going to take a long time to repair it. So if it is only cosmetic, you want to make sure that he's got damage switched off. However, if it is affecting his handling, there is the replay. Yeah. Well, we've seen them going very, very close to that wall, and this time he just went that little bit too close. So this is interesting. It's every now and then Dane Warren has an off race, and as I said earlier in the broadcast, it's only 3 in 13 or so where it happens. But when it goes bad for Dane Warren, it goes really bad for Dane Warren.
It certainly does, and that's down 5 spots from where he started on pole position. So he's still got a pretty decent haul of points behind him, and Sean Allen is behind him on the road at the moment in 9th. So Dane Warren is still set to extend his championship lead. He clipped the wall again on the run out of the corner there. He's really playing with fire now. So I'm not sure if he actually has damage at the moment. He still seems to be running relatively even pace, a 105.883. He is down around about a second on where he would like to be, I think, in terms of lap pace.
Yeah,
Current fastest lap at the moment belongs to Ethan Warren with a 104.969.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. We've got a good battle as well going on between Zach Baker and Colin Warwick over 4th place, so that's one to keep an eye on. Colin Warwick looking like he's putting Zach Baker under a bit of pressure. Let's have a look at the lap times. Making a liar of me, because Colin Warwick was slightly slower than Zach Baker on the previous lap.
But Zach Baker has slowed down a little bit in under the pressure from Colin Warwick. So it's interesting to see the dynamics of drivers as they have cars in front or behind. Madbird in the chat saying that wall glance is overdue. They run so bloody close to it. You and me both, mate.
That's what I was thinking.
Exact same thought.
And Luke Rosella's off to play some sort of flight simulator that isn't Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 by the looks of it. So, man, all of these videos on Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 making me very, very jealous indeed.
My old housemate's been playing a hell of a lot of it, and he's like getting in contact with me. He's like, "Oh, you got 10 hours to spare today? You want to watch me fly to from Launceston to somewhere in Africa?" And I was like, "Oh, I would do, but I've got some broadcasting to do tonight."
You can always have that on in the background. I like that there's apparently a feature in there to show live air traffic, just as there's basically no air traffic in the real world right now, or much less than there usually is. Of course, there's still general aviation and freight.
Once the industry picks up, that's going to get a lot more chaotic.
Yes. That'll be a feature that I imagine people will be able to run at a certain level with whatever graphics card or CPU they have at the time, and then once lots more traffic comes along, they'll have to turn that down because there'll be way too many aircraft in the sky to render. Mr. D Beach, he says, "I'm high." Well, glad to hear it. However you get your kicks, that's fine by me. Enjoy the ground.
If you read that sentence backwards, it says, "Hi, I'm Mr. D Beachy." There's a race on, Stairs. What's happening?
Well, we're watching Zach Baker gradually pulling away from Colin Warwick, so that one that we hyped up is sort of starting to not become a battle anymore, and you can see Dane Warren recovering a little bit in the back of that shot. May
I draw your attention just quickly to the battle for 8th position? We've just seen Sean Allen getting past his teammate Brody Steen on the exit of turn 1 there, and Brody Steen is now trying his darndest to defend against David Nedidich, who's up into the top 10 and maybe 9th very soon indeed. He's going to have a dive into turn 6. Oh, very close to being contact there. David Nedidich really had to jump on the anchors to make sure that didn't happen. Oh, he spun on the exit. What a shame. No! Oh, we really... Oh, I'm sorry, mate. I'll have to write him an apology because I've absolutely cursed the living daylights out of him with that one, and that's put him down at a 12th position. So the battle we were looking at is now just between the two teammates for Race on Oz. Sean Allen holding off Brody Steen as it stands at the moment, with RSN Latino a couple of seconds up the road. A couple more seconds up the road, almost 10 seconds up the road, is Dane Warren, who is slowly clawing back time on Colin Warwick in 5th.
I think I'll get as many of the angry letters as you will, Matty, because I'm the one who brought you in here. Who is this guy you brought in? Well, you know, I brought him in because he did a great job with Apex Rear Wing. But having said that, I did have prior knowledge of this commentary curse thing. It just comes with the territory.
I'll have to go and see a witch doctor before AIW season 10, I reckon, and get this bloody thing off me.
Yeah, it's interesting. Our friend Heath Dixon was telling us about he went to see a doctor about a COVID test, and he had an appointment, and they said to him, "Which doctor?" And he said, "No, regular doctor." I had to reuse that.
I'm a big fan of I'd like to make a doctor's appointment, please. Certainly. How about 10 tomorrow? No, I don't need that many.
It's like when you book a table. I'd like a table for 7 people, or 7 o'clock. I can't remember how the punchline to that joke works, but you get I've given you the bits and pieces. You put them together. It's Lego. Zach Baker and Colin Warwick are side by side.
They certainly are. So I reckon Zach Baker's lost a handful of time there, or Colin Warwick has made up a mountain of it. And now they are having a ding-dong battle through the turn 3-4 dogleg, but Colin Warwick is just a little bit too far back to do anything at this stage. So, a little bit of instability there from Zach Baker on the exit of 5. Caught a little bit of runoff. That slowed him down a little bit. So now Colin Warwick is well within touching distance, and he's almost going to have a look up the inside of 7, but there's not much he can do there. But this is a very close battle. It's hard to get many passes done here because you've got the backwash of the car in front of you, the aerodynamic wash, which makes it really hard to follow through some of the high-speed corners. So you've got to try your best to make sure you can stick onto the rear bumper as much as you can. That's going to compromise his run, that move he's made there onto the main straight. But he may still have the potential for the draft down here. Let's see what he can do. I'm just going to have a look at his onboard, but I think Zach Baker is slowly pulling away. It's hard to tell. Colin Warwick is picking up a little bit of pace. He's going to have a dive, and he's going to try and outbrake him. Is he? No, he's going to tuck back in behind. So,
he's gone dead. He's completely locked the rears and has gone straight on at turn 1 and absolutely gifted that position to Colin Warwick and puts Dane Warren ever closer to his rear bumper.
All right, we're starting to see the first of the pit stops now, so they're happening a lot later than they were in race 1.
Yep.
Lap 13, and RSM Latino is now in for a fresh set of boots, as is Benjamin Dahlia.
Yeah, there they are. So I was about to mention lap 13 to 20. That was what my graphics said, so that's not too bad. I was pretty close. I was pretty bang on. There are Benjamin Dahlia and Dane Warren taking service. Maybe a 2-stop for them.
I've got a question for you. How does the fuel work? Do you have to take it at the same time as tyres, like in the regular supercars, or are they separated?
They have made it so that you can take them. Oh, this is very close between those two. You can take them concurrently. So fuel is much less of an issue than tyres. Tyres is the difference really, because they've managed to fill the tank in a much quicker amount of time. So they've come out right in between Colin Warwick and Zach Baker.
Meanwhile, Ethan Warren's taking his tyres, so he's taken a stop and he's down into 7th at the moment, so he may have taken a splash of fuel at the same time. That's promoted Kurt Stenberg temporarily into the lead of this race, and pit strategy is well and truly swinging now.
Yeah, so Kurt Stenberg leads. I wonder how long he's going to go into this race. He's currently coming through the middle sector of the lap right now as Ethan Warren exits the pit lane. Thomas McMillan hasn't pitted either, nor has Colin Warwick or Zach Baker. Dane Warren, well, I think he's still in this race if he makes that hard tyre strategy work. He's not that far away, and 9 seconds he's lost in 15 laps. If he can avoid doing 2 pit stops, then that will probably work for him.
We'll have to see what he can do there. We're just seeing Colin Warwick dart into the pits ahead of him, so that'll push Dane Warren up into 4th as they stand at the moment, as he waits for the rest of the field to pit in front of him. Stenberg is still out, as is McMillan and Zach Baker. So they are the podium sitters at the moment, and meanwhile we're just seeing the second ZB Racing Mustang peel out of the pits. That's David Nenadich, who unfortunately spun out earlier, and he sits in 15th position. So they're a little bit all over the shop at the moment. I'm going to try and have a look at the live timing, but the live timing doesn't actually seem to show live pit stops, so that's going to throw my confusion well into overdrive.
It'll show you, they'll give you a P when they're in the pits, such as Colin Warwick at the moment. If you want to watch along at home with the live timing, the address is rsmclanau.liveraces.com, and you can see what we're looking at. And you can actually click on a driver's name. It'll give you their previous lap times and show you if they came into the pits recently. So Kurt Stenberg,
I had no idea.
Kurt Stenberg continues on his merry way. So he's not pitting on this lap, nor is Thomas McMillan. Zach Baker, however, is coming in.
That puts Dane Warren up into the podium positions for the first time. And is that RSM Latino pitting again? It is.
Well, that's not good for RSM Latino. That suggests that there's been some sort of issue.
Maybe he, it's strange because that would normally be a 2-stop race, so it's not like he's missed a splash of fuel that he has to come back for. Maybe there is an issue.
Yeah,
he's got some damage that he had to repair.
That we didn't see, so we'll see how long he remains in the pit lane. But, well, it could be maybe he forgot to change his tyres or put his fuel in. As I said, there might be some rusty drivers out there not used to the long format races, because these sprint races that we have been having have not required a stop for fuel. They've only been tyre limited.
Well, it was a free stop for RSM Latino because the gap behind him was quite a long margin, so he's still sitting in 15th as it stands. Dane Licciardo is pitting at the moment, and whereabouts? I'm just trying to cycle through. Stenberg is still out the front. McMillan is now coming to the pits.
Yep, you can see him just ahead of Dane Warren there, who's struggling to stay ahead of Benjamin Dahlia by the looks of it, who is a lap down. I'm just trying to see where Benjamin Dahlia is on the timesheets. He's 12th. He is a lap down, but clearly at the moment he's got the faster car.
He certainly seems to at the moment, so I reckon that those tyres that he has on, Dane Warren rather, would be really playing into the pace that he's carrying. He's sitting second at the moment by pure consequence of the pit strategy at the moment. Mr. D Beach in the chat asking if it was a stop-go for RSM Latino. We didn't see a penalty notification come up on the screen, so I'm going to rule that out and just say that there's some sort of undisclosed issue with that car.
Mr. Beachy also asking what was the web address for the live timing. It is rsmclanau@liveraces.com, and that is a fantastic resource. You get sector times, fastest laps, gaps, who's made pit stop, all that sort of stuff, as Dane Warren and Benjamin Dahlia once again circulate, more or less joined at the hip. Now, meanwhile, Thomas McMillan has come out very, very close to Colin Warwick, right behind RSM Latino, who is a lap down after making those 2 pit stops. So he'll have to get out of the way fairly quickly, but Thomas McMillan, I should expect, will be pretty pacey, having just made his pit stop.
Yeah, if he's clever, he'll wait until the main straight. He'll bide his time to get past RSM Latino, because otherwise he could make an error trying to get past in his technical section and gift a spot to Colin Warwick behind him, but they're both going to hang tight. RSM Latino is going to pull off to the side, slow down a little bit and get out of the way of these guys. Good lap traffic driving there from RSM Latino, although he's still motoring down the main straight.
He doesn't want to lose too much time, and who can blame him?
Not a huge man, yeah. And Colin Warwick, I don't think he's far enough ahead, or he's not close enough to Thomas McMillan to mount a challenge in terms of the draft, but that may change in the next couple of laps.
Kurt Stenberg's in the pits, and lap 19, well, he's going to one-stop this, I would expect, but he's had really good pace with whatever tyre he has elected to be on for the first stint of this race. Oh, he might be a chance. He might be a chance tonight, Kurt.
I reckon he will be, because I think he's tried the same gamble that Dane Warren has, but just on the soft tyres, unless he's going to try and switch to a hard now, or maybe he's just a little bit better at managing the hard. It's really difficult to know what tyres these guys are on, except for how they really handle the cars, but what we now know is that Dane Warren has been promoted up into P1, but we still have to wait for Warren to take that compulsory pit stop, of course. So that will probably change. The delta time between the two guys at the moment is going to be somewhere around the realm of 35 to 40 seconds by the time Kurt Stenberg gets up to race pace. Stenberg currently sitting in 8th at the moment, which means that Sean Allen is 2nd in 8th position.
You can see he's come out just ahead of Thomas McMillan and Colin Warwick. Oh, mixed up strategy. I love it. We just don't know what way the cards are going to fall, and this is the way we like to see it. So it seems that everyone is playing this very, very differently indeed.
And the side effect of that is that I don't really know what's going on until everyone's settled into their pitch strategy, and we've got about 3 laps to go. So let's take a look at stock at the moment to see where we're at. Dane Warren is leading the race, yet to stop. I don't think Sean Allen has stopped either, because he's up 8 spots from where he started. He may be going for the similar one-stop strategy, unless I'm very much mistaken. The pit stop counter isn't working on the live timing, so I can't draw from that to see what he's doing in terms of strategy. Brody Steen is currently sitting 3rd, so I think those two are both on a one-stopper.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Sean Allen has pit looking at his lap times, because they're all standard lap times. There doesn't appear to be a long middle, or a long last or first sector in any of his times. So I think you're right. Sean Allen hasn't pit.
And it'll be the same sort of situation for Brody Steen, his teammate, because they were running pretty similar lap times and line astern throughout this whole race. So the fact that they're 2nd and 3rd would suggest they're both on the same strategy. Ethan Warren, meanwhile, is down in 4th position, 25.6 seconds off the back of Dane Warren. So he's already stopped once, we know that much, and he will be needing to stop a 2nd time, we believe.
Yeah, he's pitted on lap 14 7 laps ago, so I don't think the tyres he's on now will last to the end of the race.
Dane Warren's in the pits now.
Dane Warren in the pits. Well, that is a very crucial moment in this race, and here he is, stationary. Let's see how much time he loses. I would expect that he would go onto the softs from here, and we'll see Dane Warren come alive pace-wise from this point onwards.
I definitely reckon that's going to be the case, as well, as both of the Race on Oz cars fly past, promoting Sean Allen up into P1 at the moment. Still yet to stop. Brody Steen is 2nd, so it's a 1-2 running so far for the Race on Oz guys. Ethan Warren is up into P3. Zach Baker is currently sitting 4th, with Alex Cattle also yet to pit in 5th position. Kurt Stenberg is now in 6th position, and we're just trying to see where Dane Warren is going to come out. He will be 9th by the time he rejoins.
Colin Warwick, but wow, that's a Jaws sort of Jaws picture, isn't it? When he comes out, I would expect with a renewed amount of pace, and we might be on for a bit of a show here if Dane Warren can turn it on. But Ethan Warren himself, even though he has to pit again, I would think, unless he can try and eke those tyres out, when he makes his second pit stop, he'll be extra speedy there. And where he is now, he's 10 seconds ahead of Thomas McMillan. He'll want to grow that gap a little bit. 10 seconds ahead of Kurt Stenberg and Thomas McMillan. He'll want to grow that lead as much as he possibly can. And of course, we're still waiting for Sean Allen and Brody Steen to make their pit stops. They haven't done so, either of them, yet, even though they've gone 23 laps into this race without making stops. Both the Race on Oz guys doing the same strategy.
It's important to keep in mind, though, with the two-stop strategy, there's a little bit of time to be made up in terms of fuel load, because with stopping twice, you can afford to run less fuel in the car. That saves a little bit of weight and gives you a few extra tenths. And it's just a matter of figuring out whether or not you can make up the time deficit from the pit stops on the track. Now, I've got Mr. D Beachy in the group in the video chat saying, I wonder what the championship standings are looking like before round 9. I can tell you what they're looking like. Dane Warren, this is before any points from race 1. Dane Warren was on 1,927 points, being trailed by Sean Allen, who's on 1,909. Because Dane Warren missed last week's round here at Darwin as well, that gap was brought right down. So it's a very, very narrow battle at the front at the moment between Dane Warren and Sean Allen. And we're just seeing someone in the pit. It is Sean Allen, who was just being mentioned.
Yeah,
Kurt Stenberg in third is 1,708 points. So he's a bit over 200 points off the back. But it's a one-stop strategy for Sean Allen, and those tyres definitely going to come alive. Brody Steen is doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, I think Brody Steen, well, Sean Allen looked like he was driving on ice on that last in-lap. His middle sector, where, let's have a look if I can find it on the live timing, 23.4. Not too bad, actually. Maybe, yeah, he dropped the second to Kurt through the middle sector. That is actually reasonably bad, but his tyres were 23 laps old, and Kurt's were only 5 laps old. So we're now seeing the Race on Oz guys emerge from the pits, and they are coming out just ahead of the, what's that, Alex? It's Benjamin Dahlia, I think. Yeah, Benjamin Dahlia just behind Sean Allen. But these guys are going to go to the end, and there's the potential for others ahead of them to pit again.
Yeah, I wonder what the benefit is of running those tyres so long when you know they're going to fall off the cliff like that. I guess it gives you a little bit of an opportunity to run less fuel load on a one-stop strategy in that second stint and just push those soft tyres as hard as you physically can. But it's a big risk to take, especially when you're losing a sector on those spent tyres from the first stint. So at the moment, we're looking at Ethan Warren. I'm looking at Ethan Warren, who's currently being passed by Zach Baker. Will he run it wide?
I thought Zach Baker was going deep there. Matty, that was surprising. Ethan Warren's pace isn't that good right now. Did he go to the hards?
I'm not sure. Maybe
Zach
he
Baker's
has.
driving away from him like he's standing still.
Maybe it's just an inverse strategy between the Warren brothers there. Ethan pitted early onto the hards to try and eke out the rest of this race, and now Zach Baker, who is on a two-stop, we imagine, is in the front, in the lead of this race, up 6 spots from where he started, and he's gonna probably lose quite a bit of time. That may drop him down to around 6th or 7th position by the time he pits again, if he does, which I imagine he will. So in terms of that, let's see how far. Kurt Stenberg is 5.5 seconds behind Ethan Warren. Stenberg will need to pit again. Thomas McMillan is another two and a bit seconds behind. I'm guessing they're both on two-stop strategies. So it's still a little bit up in the air.
Yeah, Ethan's been lapping around the 106s and a 107 on the previous lap since he made his pit stop. But before he made his pit stop, he was down in the 105s. He actually has the fastest lap of the race, which is a 104.9, but he's nowhere near that at the moment. So I think Ethan has done that contra strategy opposite to what Dane did by going hards in the second stint with Dane going hards in the first stint. I will keep an eye out for Dane's times right now to see whether they start getting faster.
He's running P6 at the moment, and he's I think he's gaining time on the car in front. It's hard to tell from the live readings that I'm getting here. Sean Allen is very quick in 7th, so Sean Allen is definitely on the soft tyres now and pushing them as hard as he can.
Yep.
After his long stint to start with. So I reckon that one-stop soft that the Race on Oz guy seems to be on may be the strategy of the day.
Yeah, well, it's if you can make those tyres last, absolutely. We know what happens when they go off the cliff completely. We saw it happen, it was the Sydney race where they had tyre wear actually up to ×3 instead of ×2, and they all fell apart it was the halfway point of the race, and they really only could pit on that halfway point of the race, because if they pit one lap early, then they would have the problem at the end of the race, and if they pit one lap late, they'd have that problem in the middle of the race. So they all pit at the same lap, and those that didn't were spinning off the racetrack like it was like they were driving around on soap studs.
Mr. D. Beachy's asking, how long are the pit stops roughly? I'm not sure what the exact delta time is. I haven't really tried to work it out, and it also gets a little bit harder when you factor in fuel addition as well. I reckon it's around about 30 seconds for a set of 4 tyres and a splash of fuel to get you through the stint. On average, probably give or take about 5 seconds either way, depending on how much fuel they decide to take on or leave out, and that's around about the amount of time you'll be losing from a pit stop.
I'm looking at the sector times at a couple of the drivers, and the sector times for those who've pitted is usually hovering around about 60 seconds, and that's normally about a 20-second sector split. So yeah, probably about 40 seconds, closer to 40 seconds. So it is. Yeah, remember they're going flat chat past that pit lane when they're not in the pit lane. So coming down to 40 is a huge penalty to take.
Yeah, it is a speed limit of 40 kilometers an hour, of course, in the Supercars Championship. So, and it's a pretty long pit lane here at Hidden Valley as well. So, it's really going to take a massive chunk out of your time. Now, Ethan Warren isn't losing a huge amount of time. I reckon he's gotten settled into those tyres a little bit now.
Yeah,
although he's still doing 106s,
6.9
thereabouts.
Yeah,
6.9. So he's still about a second off the race leading pace at the moment.
So Kurt is catching up to him about 9/10 of a second per lap, and he's about 3 seconds behind him at the moment. So and we think Kurt went halfway through the race on that set of tyres, that first set of tyres. So you would think that he can do the same thing again, and that means that Ethan's not in a good spot in terms of his battle with Kurt Stenberg.
Stenberg's probably looking like the favourite at this stage to take top honours, but we'll cross our fingers because anything can happen, and now that I've said that, he'll probably crash horrendously into a fence. But touch wood, that it's not going to happen. I want to take a little bit of stock to see where we're at the moment. There's a bit of a battle here. Dane Warren's just found his way past Colin Warwick into P5, and he's got lap traffic of Benjamin Dahlia up ahead of him, and then he'll have another 2.1 seconds, 2 seconds and a bit ahead of him to Thomas McMillan. So Dane Warren is on the charge now on these soft tyres, but he's only got 9 laps left to get any more spots up, and it's going to be a pretty big ask for him. There'll be a couple of pit stops ahead of him though, so that's going to change the outcome a little bit. Now I imagine those pit stops will be coming sooner rather than later.
Yeah, let's have a look at what sort of pace Dane Warren's been running lately. He's currently doing 105s. So that's a pretty decent pace. It's quicker than anyone around him, 105.2. So he's, at the moment, the fastest driver on the racetrack, and he's been consistently the last 4 laps from Dane Warren, 105.22, 105.24, 105.24, 105.239. And then he's just destroyed that by setting a 104.9 on the previous lap, 7/10 down. But of course, he did have to deal with a bit of traffic.
What did I tell you? Robotic he is.
Metronome. You could set your watch to him.
You certainly could.
In fact,
I'm hearing the whistles going off from the pit lane, and I'm just seeing David Nenadich stopping again. So
yeah,
the 2-stop strategy is about to start coming into play around about now. And they've left it a bit late for these final stints. 8 laps isn't really much time to get anything done with those soft tyres. So it's an interesting strategy for these stops. Daniel Licciardo's just spun there in 14th. I'm cycling through and looking at the moment. And now Zach Baker's not pitting. He's electing not to pit this time around. Ethan Warren is going to be flying past as well, as will Kurt Stenberg, who was caught right up onto the back of him.
Yeah, well, that happened quicker than we were expecting it to, didn't it? I said about 3 minutes ago that he was 3 seconds behind, and he was catching him by about 9/10 of a second per lap. My goodness, David Nenadich has come out just behind Dane Warren, but behind him there's a 3-wide battle going on down into turn 1. Benjamin Dahlia is he's completely out of place because he's a lap down for reasons that I can't remember. But Thomas McMillan is struggling there. He's put Benjamin Dahlia between himself and the ZB car by the looks of it.
Well, Nenadic is also a lap down, so
Yeah, I was
Thomas
just
McMillan
thinking
is
that. I was looking
sort
for
of
him.
on his own at the moment.
Yeah.
And these two guys behind him would do well to stay out of McMillan's way and not try to get past him too much, unless they've got
cars in the pits.
more pace. But Benjamin Dahlia and David Nenadic are definitely having a battle right now for 10th position, and it's a drive-through penalty again for RSM Latino.
Yeah, he's sped in the pit lane. He's just coming out of the pits now. He's going to have another tour of the pit lane. Now, he's already had 3 so far in this race, as Kurt Stenberg looks like he's going to take second place away from Ethan Warren, and that may well become first place when Zach Baker pits. And Ethan Warren seemingly with absolutely nothing in the tank to fight that one.
Just looking at Zach Baker's times, his last lap was a 106.5. So I reckon he's getting very close to the cliff of those tyres that he's on at the moment, and he'll probably have to pitch soon for sure. Another drive-through penalty there for Dane Licciardo, so I'd say he's sped in the pit lane as well. So shocking races for both of those gentlemen, unfortunately. And where are we at the moment? We're just having a second. Oh, Benjamin Dahlia's getting stuck into Thomas McMillan at the moment. That's battle still raging on.
My goodness me, it's hard to know where to look. And we're 32 laps into the race, and Benjamin Dahlia spins in front of Thomas McMillan, and well, that's not gone terribly well. The race leader, Zach Baker, is in for his second pit stop. RSM Latino in behind comes in to serve his drive-through penalty, and Kurt Stenberg is about to splash through your shot. There he is to take the lead of the race.
He certainly is. Ethan Warren is surely on a one-stop strategy as well at this stage, but I don't think he has the pace to get back past Kurt Stenberg. So Stenberg just has to hold on for these last 6 laps to get this race win here at Hidden Valley, and it'll be a fantastic result. Dane Warren, meanwhile, is up in a 3rd position. So this strategy from the Warren brothers to run the soft and the hard on a one-stop, it was definitely brave, it was bold, but I don't think it was as quick as they would have liked. It was still very, very fast because they're up in the pointy end of the field. Thomas McMillan is being slowed down a lot by this battle between himself and David Nenadic, who's trying to unlap himself now, and does so around the outside. So Nenadic has a lot more pace on fresher tyres. McMillan surely has to pit again. But at the moment, it's Kurt Stenberg running first, just under 2 seconds in front of Ethan Warren, who himself is 3 seconds ahead of his brother Dane.
Thomas McMillan pitted on lap 17. That's very close to the threshold. Maybe he'll try and eke those tyres out to the end. It'll be very interesting to see whether he does. But the battle at the front, Dane Warren could still win this race. He was a second a lap, or he was 1 second faster on the previous lap than Kurt Stenberg, and there's about 4 laps left, and he's about 4 laps behind. It all depends on whether his brother Ethan moves out the way for him, or whether he can dispatch Ethan Warren very quickly. But if it's between Kurt and Dane right now, I would think.
I'd say so, yeah. They're both on the same team. They're probably in the same group chat as well, so they can definitely communicate about what they're going to be trying to do here, because Ethan Warren, it may serve him some good to get out of the way if he can get in the tow behind Dane Warren. But at the same time, that's a pretty convincing second place at the moment for Ethan to get himself some extra points. We'll see what happens with those two, whether they decide to swap positions and try and chase down Kurt Stenberg. They'll have to make the decision sooner rather than later. Dane is very close to the back of his brother already, so that maneuver will be happening in the next lap for sure, I would say.
It's happening faster than I expected it. I reckon Kurt might have to defend for a lap or two here. This is going to be a mighty interesting finish to this race, and Kurt will be absolutely eager as the defending champion to claim his first victory of the year. We had all but written Dane Warren off at the start of this race. Remember when he spun? Remember when he clouted the edge of the wall at the start of the pit lane? Now he's right behind Ethan.
Look at this. What a recovery drive from Dane Warren it's been after that massive impact with the wall. He's going to have a look around the outside out of turn 4, duck up the inside into turn 5. Job well done. And now he's got 3.4 seconds to make up with 4 laps to do it. Can he improve on Kurt Stenberg to the tune of a second a lap? And once he gets there, can he get past? This is going to be a fantastic last lap sprint.
Oh, you're not wrong. You are not wrong. There will be 3 laps remaining at the end of the current lap, and the gap is currently 3 seconds. And so you don't need to be a mathematician. He needs to take 3 seconds a lap. 3 seconds. Oh my goodness. I'm not a very good mathematician. He needs to take 1 second per lap to take victory. This could be a very, very close finish indeed. And could heartbreak strike twice for Kurt Stenberg in 2 weeks. He's been oh so close to grabbing victory at this racetrack. Can tonight be the night?
Do you fancy his chances as a defensive driver?
I reckon he's going to make that. He's going to make that Trans-Tasman Commodore as wide as he possibly can. But Dane
Just
is
looking a little
looming.
bit further back, Thomas McMillan, his attempted a one-stop strategy has backfired. He's hemorrhaging pace. His last lap was a 1 minute 9.029, and Sean Allen has breezed past him with ease. So that's a shame for Thomas McMillan there. And Sean Allen
in the pits. That car will not be controllable.
Definitely, and Benjamin Daly's going to unlap himself again now here after spinning out in that earlier battle. So no pace at all for that green machine there. Sean Allen, meanwhile, is up into 4th position, having started 10th as a result of that track cut in the shootout. So he's got some great points that he salvaged there. Now, the gap at the front as they cross the start-finish line with 2 laps to go is just a smidge under 2 seconds. So it's around about a second a lap that Dane Warren is still making up on Kurt Stenberg. And Kurt Stenberg knows it, I reckon. He's probably going to be starting to feel the pressure soon, but just keep pressing, mate. I'm going to try and be as impartial as I can, but Dane Warren's ran wide there in turn 1. That's going to make his job a little bit harder.
That'll be crucial.
Kurt Stenberg can breathe a very slight sigh of relief.
So last lap around, Kurt Stenberg 106.4, Dane Warren 105.3. He was 1.1 seconds quicker on the previous lap than Dane Warren, and that sort of pace will be enough. But this is the penultimate lap. 1.6 seconds is currently the gap, and there's about 1.5 laps left. He's going to be right on him on the final sector. This is going to be a drag race out of the final corner of this race, I imagine. This is the view from Dane Warren.
And what of Stenberg's tyres at the end? Because he's going to be running these tyres to the absolute living end of their lives. Are they going to be on wires by the end of the last lap? Is he going to be sliding all over the track on tyres that have fallen off the cliff? The gap is 1.3 seconds now, and there's 1 lap to go, so Warren hasn't made up as much time as he would have liked. But anything can happen here. Those tyres may not have as much in them for Stenberg as he would hope. And we're just running turn 1 for the final time now. That gap is already down a 10th.
Yeah, that lap was a win for Kurt Stenberg. He only hemorrhaged half a second to Dane Warren, as opposed to the 1 second he lost on the previous lap. So that means that he has a little bit of a cushion now. Dane Warren has to pull out all the stops to catch up to Kurt Stenberg. The gap is still over a second, and the longer it stays over a second, the better the chances for Kurt Stenberg. He's almost got it in the bag at this stage.
Almost, but don't put your chickens in the basket too quickly, because anything can happen, and it usually does. I say that a lot because it always proves to be true. Kurt Stenberg just has to hold on and be mistake-free for the end of this lap. Bit of a slide there from Dane Warren. He's pushing as hard as he possibly can.
Got it.
But there's only so much he can do. The gap's under a second now. It's around about 7/10. He's not going to be able to do it. Kurt Stenberg is going to cross the line to win race 2 here at Darwin Hidden Valley.
What an absolutely cracking race from Kurt Stenberg. A great strategy race. We saw some fantastic variance in the strategy across the entire race, and Kurt Stenberg grabs his first win of the season. Dane Warren with a terrific recovery drive after spinning, and then Ethan Warren finishes third ahead of Sean Allen, Zach Baker, and Thomas McMillan. Brody Steen and Alex Kettle are the remaining drivers on the lead lap.
Fantastic race there. That strategy was really going to be all over the place. A few of those drivers were definitely limping back. Thomas McMillan didn't end up hitting at all. He stuck it out on those super worn tyres, and he finishes P6 for his trouble. So he's up 2 spots of where he qualified. So he did well there to recover. I think the margins between the cars there really played out to his benefit. But it's not as high as he would have liked, but I think he tried his best to make the one-stop work. And the variance in strategies was really fantastic.
Well, Kurt Stenberg appeared to do soft and made them last. I think that was some great time management from him. Thomas McMillan pitted just a little bit too early, I think, to make that one-stop work. He came in around about lap 16, which just meant he had way too much work to do on the second stint of the race.
Well, I'm not sure how the championship standings look at the moment because I haven't got a live spreadsheet in front of me like I normally do with Apex Rear Wing. But Kurt Stenberg is definitely narrowing the gap to the guys in front. So he will still probably be, most likely be in third in the championship, because Sean Allen had a very strong finish there, finishing in P4. Dane Warren does still lead the way in the championship standings.
Yeah, well, Dane finishes tonight first and second. Ethan Warren gets second and third. And Kurt Stenberg gets third and first. So it was the same podium for both races, just in a completely different order.
Kurt Stenberg's using up the rest of the rubber that he's got on those back tyres there, making sure to leave as much of it on the track surface as he possibly can, and why wouldn't he? Fantastic result for Stenberg. Tyre management played to perfection.
What an enthralling set of races we've had tonight. Matty, that was absolutely... I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Yeah, absolutely. That was fantastic. Haven't really had a chance to watch much of this tyre strategy racing in the simulator world. Most of the Apex rear wing stuff we've been doing lately has been sprints, so the strategies with the tyres and the fuel has really been throwing me for a loop, and it's been great to watch just how these guys behave on different strategies, how they interact with each other going around the track. And it's still a shame to see drivers such as Luke Rosella not able to get up there and mix it up, but we had some fantastic racing all the way up and down the field, and it's just a testament to the quality of this Automobilista Supercars Championship.
Yeah, well, when we switched to the 3-race format and started doing some more sprint races, that changed it up a little bit. But then we switched back to the format that we used earlier in the season, and the strategy is nothing like it was at the beginning of the season. At the beginning of the season, it was maybe a little bit predictable, but just going to a different format and then coming back to this, it's just completely changed it all up, and we've seen variety in abundance.
Absolutely.
So we're just waiting to see whether we get some of the drivers come down for a chat. I think Kurt Stenberg is going to be ecstatic and will be definitely on for a chat, but he'll be finishing his burnouts first. So we'll just shoot the breeze in the meantime. I didn't even get a chance to talk about the Spanish Grand Prix of 2016 that I mentioned before the race start.
Oh yeah, where was that tangent going?
Oh, I was going to talk about Nico Rosberg's YouTube channel, which was a bit of an aside, but I noticed he's been doing these incredibly in-depth track reviews lately, and he did one on Spain where he goes through the brake bias that he uses for each corner and all that sort of thing, and then he got to that corner where he crashed with Lewis Hamilton and said, "Oh, I don't remember anything about that corner," and promptly moved on. Speaking of promptly moving on, let's have a chat to some of our drivers. They've popped in for a chat. So let's start with the winner from the race we just watched, Kurt Stenberg. What a terrific night for you, third place in race 1, and what looked like a terrific strategy battle in race 2. How did you see it from your side?
I'm absolutely hyped. That's the best I've driven in this series ever, I reckon. I cannot tell you how happy I am with how it went tonight. So yeah, terrific strategy battle out there. I think I was the only person who did the one stop on the soft tyres, which is why I think Dane and Ethan definitely did hards in alternate ways, and I'm not sure what others did, but yeah, I knew it was going to be a risky strategy to try and get that many laps out of the tyres, but I don't know how I did it, but it happened. So
yeah, well, we saw others try it and fail, but you managed to break the race exactly in half, so incredible job with the tyre management there, and you just had enough in hand. Dane was coming fast at the end.
Yeah, mate. I mean, I honestly didn't know what strategy I was going to run going into that race. That was awesome. I knew that there were 3 permutations. We could do a 3-stop, you could do what I did, you could do what Dane did, what Ethan did. I had no idea what to do. I thought I'll start the race on softs, see if there's a safety car, see how it plays out, and then when I got the start on Dane and I followed Ethan and I saw there was a bit of a battle behind me, I thought, now's the right time, conserve tyres, drive smooth, don't slide the car whatsoever, try and get it. It was pretty sketchy to get it to lap 20 because it was trying to do that thing where it rotates and puts you back in the fence on my last lap, and then it was all about making sure that I had enough tyres before it got to that point so I could fight anyone if they came to me, and thank God I did, because I reckon out of the last corner it was on the edge of that, on that race.
Yeah, absolutely. We were watching the gap. It was coming down in seconds, and then that penultimate lap you only lost half a second, and that seemed to be the moment for you.
Yeah, I definitely pushed on the penultimate lap because I had the call. I was actually streaming on Twitch and I had the call from Jared in the chat I needed to push, and I saw how much tyre I had and I thought, you got to just drive the best you can now and worry about what happens later on the last lap. So I knew I couldn't let Dane get within the draft or I was gone. It was all over. So Yeah,
Well,
very happy.
absolutely, and so you should be. Huge congratulations from a driving point of view and as an admin point of view. The racing tonight was spot on. It was just terrific.
Thanks, mate.
Excellent. Let's move on to our race winner for race 1 in Dane Warren, and some terrific qualifying laps from you again tonight. Good to have you back in the series.
Yeah, it's always great to be back. Obviously, it was a bit interesting in that second race, driving into a wall in a straight line, but we'll forget that it happened and just that we came in P2. But yeah, it's always good to be back.
Yeah, history doesn't show the spins. You just see the timing sheets. So
That's it.
what happened there? Was it just a lapse in concentration?
Oh, realistically, it probably was. I think from my end, it was probably like pixel perfect contact with the wall, because I didn't actually get any damage if at all. So it was a bit weird. But yeah, it was pretty spectacular to get away with it. To be honest, I was expecting to be P nowhere by the end.
Yeah, so you didn't need to fix any damage in the pits after that, did you?
No, the car was perfectly straight just after it, so I elected not to fix anything in the pits just in case it added a bit more time until the stop. So yeah, it was just a really weird accident.
Yeah, well, we've seen a lot of you guys pushing it close to the limits against that wall in this week and last week. Eventually, someone was bound to hit it.
Yep, and it was me. Out of everyone, it was me. So yeah, I'll try not to do that next round where I think there's walls just about everywhere.
Yeah, well, maybe you've got it out of your system before we go to Townsville next round. But of course, race 1 went much more to plan from your perspective. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, well, obviously being the 19-lap race, it was pretty easy to just 50-50 it on the tyres. So it was pretty much just make a gap from Ethan at the start and run away with it. The 38-lap race was a lot more strategically complex. So yeah.
Yeah, so we saw you and Ethan must have taken, I believe you took hards first and Ethan took hards second. Is that the way it played out?
Yeah, I did something pretty interesting that I'm actually going to hold on to for next round if this sort of strategy is required. But yeah, the pace in the second race was actually not too bad on the hards that I chosen. So yeah, from what I heard, Ethan took hards in the second half, which didn't really pay off. I think they just wear way too quickly. Overall, I don't have the pace.
Well, it certainly made for interesting watching with us trying to guess what was happening. So congratulations on 2 strong results. We'll forget about the little spin, and we look forward to seeing you in the future rounds.
That's it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Matty, our 2 race winners. What interesting stories they had to tell.
Oh, it's fantastic to be along and experience this with you in the booth. Hopefully I get more chances to commentate on Automobilista Supercars in the future, because that was a great lot of fun. And the guys have a lot of respect for each other. They're all very, very talented drivers as well. It's great from a spectator's point of view, and I'm very privileged to be able to have been able to call it in the box with you tonight. The Madbird will be back in a few weeks' time. I'm not sure when the next race is in Townsville. I haven't got the schedule in front of me. But
Well,
the next 2
week,
races
actually.
it is next week. So
Yeah,
it'll be a
we're
Townsville
doing 4
doubleheader.
weeks. Yeah, we're doing 4 weeks in a row, just like the real life supercars. So yes, we are doing Townsville twice in a row, and well, Madbird missed out on that track last year, so he'll be back. But definitely we'll be looking towards yourself for a call up if we find that we have a Madbird missing once again. I've thoroughly enjoyed tonight's broadcast.
Well, one of the beauties of living in Melbourne at the moment is I've got absolutely nothing else on at the moment. So whenever you need me, I'm here, mate. And I'm more than happy to join you in the booth again. It was great fun. And thank you to everyone for tuning in and getting involved in the chat. Great chatting to you as always. Please tune in next week. It'll be great to have your company again. I'll be watching for sure. And Stairs, that's all for me, I think.
Yeah, and that's pretty much all from me. I don't have anything much to add to that apart from to echo all of your sentiments. Thank you very much indeed for your comments in the live chat, for watching along, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.